Hello, my beautiful people. So, this is the final video in a series of 5 on Jupiter moving into the sign of Leo. Be sure to check out the other 4. So, welcome. My name is Raphael. I'm an astrologer, tarot reader, numerologist, and energy worker. If you don't know, and if you are a continued subby, you know Rafi loves you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. Also, if you are a channel member for my lovers, lifers, and riders, you know Rafi loves you and you absolutely have my heart. So thank you so much. Give you some love. All right. Now, for those of you that are new to my channel, please don't forget to like, share, and if you should so choose, and this resonates, hit that subscribe button. Now, the final thing that I want to say is I just hit that 97K mark. All right. So we're at 97,000 subscribers. Thank you so much to all of you that are subscribed. Thank you so much for all of you that share and all of that good stuff. Please, please, please do what you can to help Rafi hit that milestone. I always said that I would throw a party when I hit 100K just because it's a big milestone for me personally. I know there's bigger channels out there and stuff, and you know they're very common now to have that plaque. But for me, just given what it represents and all the stuff, I would really, really appreciate it. Now, with that said, you've been waiting for this one, the 5th one in the series of 5. If you haven't seen the other 4, do check them out. There's links for those in the description box below. And if that wasn't enough, I created a playlist so you can access all of them super easily. All right, now, what you've been waiting for. Jupiter in Leo for all 12 signs. Obviously, we're going to be starting with Aries. So as you can see, there is the chart. We're going to also be looking at your blessings and your lessons of this transit, things that you might need to look at. And then we're also going to look at how you might activate this transit with things that you can do personally. So for you, Aries, Jupiter is going to be moving into your 5th house of joy, self-expression, play. This is also about your personal style. It's the place of competitiveness. This is a space, a supremely lucky space in the chart. Jupiter loves the 5th house. It does good work here. All right, so all good things to come. But there are some things that you obviously want to watch out for as well, which we're going to talk about. Now, although Jupiter will be moving through your 5th house, he's actually the natural ruler for you of your 9th house of Sagittarius and your 12th house of Pisces. So in that aspect, Jupiter moving through your 5th house is going to immediately square that Chiron in your 2nd house. And so for me, I kind of feel like this is suggesting that there's a need for you to really understand your own value through the desire to express yourself more openly and more boldly. And so what I mean by that is you're going to be feeling that drive, right? Jupiter expands whatever it touches. So it's coming into the 5th house of joy, creativity, pleasure, romance, sex, anything that makes your heart race a little bit, anything that's got like a little bit of an adrenaline rush or junky feel to it. That is all 5th house stuff. And so if Jupiter is expanding and increasing things there, it stands to reason that you are going to want to express yourself that much more. And that square to Chiron in your 2nd house, it may see you questioning your worth and your value as you do this, because obviously as you start to make shifts and changes and you start to express yourself more, you're going to come up against what or who in your area, in your when I say your area, it's not, I don't mean like just your local area, I mean just, you know, in the sphere of your life. You're going to see like, oh, okay, this is where I felt comfortable to do this before or where I haven't. This is a situation that really potentially arises through a financial way. And it's also asking you to consider the implications of taking financial risks, but it's also asking you to consider the implications of never taking a financial risk. Now, I'm not obviously, you know, advocating for you to go and put your house, your wife, and your car on the roulette table, but what I am saying is the 5th house is not just lucky. It's a house of gambling, of speculative endeavors. It's the lotto win house. It's the, you know, I put 50 quid on a horse and I won 500 back. Now, again, obviously you have to manage these things because Jupiter wants more of everything, right? So it's going to, sometimes it might push you to feel luckier than you actually are. So I'm going to say, obviously, you do not need to manage this, which we'll look at shortly. But, you know, at the same time, if, as the saying goes, right here in the UK, we've got this really cheesy line in the lotto advert, and it's like you've got to be in it to win it. And that is very much the case. The fifth house is also a deeply competitive space. And because it's a really creative space, if you've got a personal business, this could be great for that. It could really enhance that. You could see you taking some really bold risks with that. It could also see you maybe pouring more money into something like that. Now, Jupiter obviously is going to oppose Pluto in your 11th house. So, in a way, this is getting you to understand the importance of expanding your network of friends and your connections, but it's also highlighting the need for you to heal around what where it is that you've kind of felt like maybe you're not enough. That Pluto in the 11th is also showing you not only the value of friendship, but it's also getting you to really look at the power dynamics within group situations if you have them. It's also helping you understand where your power within the group structures that you're a part of actually are and sit. So I kind of like this. Now, I also think as well, where is it that you sort of hide within the group because you think that others are better or they've got something, more important to say or whatever the case might be? That might be revealed to you as a result of this, as things unfold. And it can actually be very liberating for you in the long run. Now, the last thing that I want to say with this fifth house energy, it is sex and pleasure and all of those things. So if you are single, this is absolutely the time, right? This next year, you got to be out here dating up a storm. Lean into it, right? This is the thing with transits. Everyone hears Jupiter, and straight away, the first thing on their mind is, yep, excellent. That house is sorted. I can just sit back and wait for blessings to rain from the sky. No, Jupiter is what I love to call an opportunity whore, right? So Jupiter is going to throw opportunities at you. You have to do something with them. So the blessings of this transit for you: increased luck, increased optimism, lightness, a sense of ease and play and fun, laughter and giggles. You're going to want more of that. Now, also, if you have children, because the fifth house is the house of children, I almost forgot. If you are wanting to start a family, this is the time, right? You got a year, get in that boom boom room and start making things happen. If you already have children, you could have more. If you're wanting to have your first child, this could absolutely unfold. Jupiter being in this space as well could enhance the relationship that you have with your children. So if you've got kids, this could be a wonderful time for you. Could be a desire for more pleasure, for more fun, for more enjoyment, for more sex, for more romance, and a greater sense of self-expression and a lightness of doing those things. Since Jupiter rules the ninth for you, this could also be around travel or some form of higher education that you just feel like absolutely this is the way to go, or even building something. Now, the lessons side of this, remember Jupiter rules your 12th house, the house of self-sabotaging tendencies. So be careful here, because the lessons are, fifth house, this could make you more competitive, more so than you already are, Aries, which means it could make you impulsive. Now, on top of that, it could make you more go-getting, which is great, but that could come across as borderline arrogant, especially in a sign like Leo. And I say this, I've got a Leo rising, so I know sometimes that sign can have a way about it. Looking for knowledge through competition. The way that I see that maybe unfolding is that you kind of start some shit just because you want to handle some shit. Do you know what I mean? Or you're like, well, the makeup sex is always really good, so let me start an argument. Really? Come on now. Why not just ask for the sex? Like, hello. Gambling, right? Jupiter, the Wheel of Fortune card, literally coming into the fifth house, into the sign of Leo. If you are a gambling sort of person, it could really, just keep an eye on it. All right. You do need to keep an eye on it. Now, as I say, the square to Chiron in that second house, it will not be ignored. And so what I want to say to you is, while luck is on your side, relying very heavily on said luck and expecting it to always be there could end up creating more problems for you than maybe you would like or need. All right, so something to think about. So, how do you activate this? Well, one of the ways that I think you could activate this, not only do you obviously lean into the blessings, and maybe it's not even to steer clear of the lessons, it's to apply the knowledge or the wisdom that sees you as sort of sidestepping them. To activate this, you're going to really lean into your optimism, but also lean into the desire for direct experience and approach. Wherever it is in your life that you're not truly being authentically yourself, this is the time to really open up fully into that and to express yourself deeply, even when it feels a little bit tender, even when it feels a bit like, oh, I don't, who am I to be doing this? Or, all of that. This is the time to really address those kinds of things. And I actually think that you could make some really good progress through it. All right. So for Taurus, this for you is going to be Jupiter moving into your fourth house of home, property, family, real estate. This fourth house is also your living situation, where you live, how you live there. It's also the house of the end of matters, and it also represents your hidden wealth underground. Now, for you, in your chart, Jupiter obviously rules your eighth house of other people's money, secrets, taxes, loans, debts, etc. It also rules your 11th house, which is a gains house or a monetary house, because it's the gains from your career or your social status in some way. Now, Jupiter moving into the fourth is bringing your attention to the absolute core wounds of your identity and selfhood, as well as the idea of being sovereign. But it's highlighting this to you, or the way that it's going about this is by showing you, because it's in your fourth house, what about your history, your ancestry, what about your what secret eighth house stuff do you have within your emotional sphere as a result of your childhood, as a result of your familial ties, as a result of your relationship with your parents, mother or father, in particular, probably mother, or the most feminine of the most nurturing, let's say, of the parents, right? Whoever that would be, because sometimes it's dad. That's just the truth of it. Sometimes it's your dad that's more nurturing and your mum that's a bit more sort of wears the trousers. It just depends on the dynamic of your family. There's a chance here as well, and likely a push actually, to uncover or to heal from any family, home, or ancestral wounds that have really kind of sat too heavily on you. This could be a really powerful time of healing your identity, because you've got Chiron in your sign now, right? And so Jupiter squaring Chiron immediately, opposing Pluto immediately, setting up that fixed T-square energy, right? And I mean, a fixed T-square is, to me, that's like the epitome of Taurus energy as well. I will move, but I will move in the direction that I want to go. And a square always makes you uncomfortable. It makes you uncomfortable enough so that you actually make a change. Now, there is a chance, as I say, for you to heal from some kind of childhood patterns or things that you've carried for sort of far too long. It's that Jupiter in the fourth house as well that's going to bring a lightness to your emotions. It's going to bring an optimism and a joy and a healing to your emotional situation. Since it rules the 8th and the 11th, this could also be, because these are financial houses as well, right? There's a chance that your home's value could go up in price. That's very possible. I've seen a lot of people, when Jupiter moves into the fourth, the home expands or it gets better. Remember, Jupiter is the principle of cohesion. So if your house has been messy, if there's been a lot of things that needed to be done with it, but you didn't have the time, maybe you didn't have the money, maybe, all of that stuff, now this could start to come together. Remember, this is a 12-month transit. It's going to trigger a lot of things. It's going to activate different houses, different planets, different energies in your chart, aside from the chart that I'm showing you, all right? But that being said, this could actually have a really profound effect on that. One thing that me and my bestie have talked about sort of, in our sort of very deep conversations, is that we kind of feel like as we're renovating the house, we're also renovating ourselves, right? And so there could be an element of this. The opposition that's being set up between Pluto in your 10th and Jupiter in your 4th, it means that something about your work and career or your social status or even the legacy that you're choosing to leave behind is about to be amplified in a really big way, and a way that potentially feels a lot bigger than you either expected or had anticipated. And yet, whatever it is that unfolds is worth leaning into, or maybe phasing something out, what, sort of no longer really has a place. Now, in the sextile to Jupiter, sorry, in the sextile to Mars and Uranus in the second, there's a chance to really enhance your financial world, but it might come with some either very shocking or disruptive removals, or a change in fortunes that really happens by what we call sort of overnight standards. So let's say you've been in business for, 8 to 10 years, and it's like, it's done good, it's done all right, and it's done everything that it needs to, except pop. This could be that. Could also be that something in your work, your career, your business, your job, your all of those things that comes up that really needs to be paid attention to now, because there is a switch or a change with your money or your finances that comes very much out of the blue. In the trine to Neptune in your 12th house, do pay extra attention to your dreams, your visions, anything or anyone from foreign or distant lands, because there's likely to be really important messages and maybe even blessings that come through here. And as I say, like, while you can't sort of get around the challenges, there are absolutely great pockets of good here. I do think that there is, there's a lot to be said for this. Now, that being said, the blessings that you have here are more internal space. Now, this could be an expansion of your actual home. I've seen people renovate homes with Jupiter moving into the fourth. I've seen people move house to get a bigger house. I've seen them improve their homes, like DIY, getting people in to build this, take that out, make this better, open up this, take walls out there. All of that kind of stuff I've seen happen with Jupiter in the fourth. It could also be maybe so let's say you're single. Maybe you get with a partner, they've got 2 kids, you've got 2 kids, and suddenly you're like, okay, we need a bigger house, right? So this could see that as well. It could be a better family life, better home life, family expansion, right? Jupiter in the fourth is also a baby maker as well. Home value could increase, healing familial or ancestral wounds, healing your childhood trauma, finding hidden treasure, both literal and metaphorical. There could be, so as an example, you could find something that was left behind by an ancestor and you read it and it's the most beautiful letter and you find a piece of jewelry with it. It could be that you're searching the attic after, touch wood, the time has come and your grieving has sort of subsided and you're like, okay, now I need to sort through the stuff, and you find something that just absolutely touches your soul, right? Like it's a hidden treasure. And it doesn't have to be, material. It could be, so I've got oh, sorry, the memory of that one really just hit me. We have, before my nan passed, oh, sorry. Before my nan passed, I asked her to leave me a voice note on my birthday singing, oh God, singing happy birthday. And now, whenever it's my birthday, my sister, so when it was my sister's birthday after, even though she says my name in it, I sent it to her and we just pass it back and forward. Every time we have a birthday, we send it to whoever's having the birthday, and it's like she's still here. It's not and I'm sharing that because, as you can see, that to me is a hidden treasure. And I hope that makes sense. You could find a video or a film, you could find a voice note of a loved one or something that just really feels like a true treasure, like it just, all the feels, man, all the feels. That's that Cancer moon of mine in full effect. So for the lessons, overindulging in your feelings. Now, if you've been with me long enough, you've heard me talk about this. One of the most addictive things on the planet to human beings is our own feelings. You've seen the kind of things that we can and will do just because we felt something strong enough. So watch out for that. If there are problems or issues with family members or in the home, or in, Jupiter will bring that to the surface. It brings it up, it expands it so that you have to look at it, right? So that you have to heal it, so that you have to mend it. Emotional eating could come in here, very possible. Jupiter loves sweet things, right? Sweet things, sweet treats, nice things, luxurious things, expensive things, fixating on wounds, that's very possible. Creating drama or crises, overspending on the home, paying more than is necessary for whatever it is that you're purchasing, expansion of family issues, expansion or worsening of home problems. Again, it's not doing this to punish you, it's highlighting to you what needs to be mended, fixed, or healed. How do you activate this? Well, to activate the good in this, I think it's really about spiritual practices that you have, that you start, that you build on, that you enhance in some way. It's about using your imagination in an optimistic way and paying a deep, close attention to the thoughts and the daydreams, but especially the feelings that are informing your reveries, right? And so what I mean by this, because that's a very long-worded way of seeing it, you know this, you do this all the time, right? You think of something and then you start really thinking about it and it throws up all of these feelings, right? Or you think about something and then it starts the churn of your feelings internally. Because Jupiter rules that 11th house for you, which is the higher goals, aspirations, visions, and dreams, and it also rules the 8th house of your psychic power, your psychic porousness. Pay attention to what you are daydreaming about, first and foremost, because of those two houses. But remember, Jupiter's in your fourth of your deep emotions. And so, because it's expanding your feelings, what is the trick to manifesting? All of the gurus talk about this. It's how you feel that will manifest the thing for you or keep it from you. So in order for you to activate this Jupiter, you really have to pay attention to your daydreams. And more importantly, when you are thinking about things, check your emotional state and check it quick. Is it good? Is it healthy? Is it positive? Is it life affirming? If not, shut it down and start again from a positive place. All right, so Gemini, this is Jupiter in your third house. Now, the third house is your local environment, right? It's your neighborhood. It's the websites that you visit every day. It's the shop that you buy your milk from. It's the people that you see on your walk out every morning. It is literally like your immediate environment. If the fourth house is the home, the third house is everything around the home. All right, just to give you in terms of like a location. That being said, the third house is your siblings, cousins, and neighbors. The third house is also communication, conversation, writing, speaking. It's your content creation. If you're a content creator like me, it's the third house thing. The third house also happens to rule your work, right? If the sixth house is your daily grind, the third house is your commute to the job. It's the how you get there. It's the skills that you use, because the third house is your hands. It's the skill set that you utilize on a daily level. Now, you guys, as Geminis, already have what I call the gift of the gab. Well, Jupiter being the expander and in the sign of Leo in the third house, Jupiter loves the third house. Jupiter's a very social planet. It loves to be at the center of attention. So does Leo, right? And you have this in the third house. When I say this has the ability to give you the golden tongue, I really mean it, right? And so over the next sort of 12 months, I do urge you to use your powers for good. Why do I say that? Well, remember the story of Midas. If everything that you ask for turns to gold, what happens when it's the thing that you would just like to stay as it was, right? And so what I mean by this, and this isn't, I don't want to piss on your fireworks, not at all. In fact, I want you to milk this transit. But I also want you to be realistic about how much you can absolutely do, what your capacity truly is, and more importantly, where it is that, maybe you leave yourself open or vulnerable. Maybe you overpromise something. Now, before I get into that, remember Jupiter for you rules your seventh house of relationships, because it rules Sagittarius, and it also rules your 12th house, sorry, your 10th house of Pisces, right? So 7th and 10th house, relationships and career. So Jupiter moving through that third house, absolutely bringing this golden tongue where you can literally charm the birds from the trees. What's new as a Gemini, right? More than that as well, though, Jupiter is going to bring cohesion to how you experience your local neighborhood. And it's going to bring helpful people, supportive people who might help you in your career in some way. The square to Chiron in the sign of Taurus is happening. So it's from the third to the 12th house. That means that there is a need for you to address something from the past over this next year. It would be a time for, and this is a great time for you as well. If you need to have some kind of talk therapy, maybe deep, sort of honest conversations, or to look at a really deep, honest account of your personal history, at least for yourself, right? To look at, like, actually, yeah, you know what? This happened in my past, right? And it was hard, it was painful, it was scary, it was this, right? You have the chance through speaking, through communicating now, that Jupiter in the third, to heal something from your past, the 12th house, Chiron in the 12th, healing the past in some way. You have a chance now to really heal something, to really examine it or to look at it in a way that is expanded and also gives you scope to say, you know what, I actually think I'm going to use my story as an example to help others, as an example to support others, or even just to inform the work that I do. Now, there could be both professional or so because the seventh house is partnerships, relationships, connections of a significant nature, or contracts. But it's not just sort of intimate partners, it's personal, professional, platonic. So there could be both professional and friendship ties here that really begin to mend or to heal, especially ones from the past. It could even be that people that you maybe grew up with or lived next to when you were younger, especially ones that moved away to, like, you know, a really long way, or maybe to another country, they could come back, or you could reconnect with them, especially if you have sort of wounds or challenges around that stuff. Like, I'll never forget my best friend, Perry, when he and his mum and dad moved. So my house was here well, I say house, we lived in a flat, a council flat, which I loved, by the way. So we lived here in this block of flats, and then right next to it there was another block of flats, and the kid that lived down here, his name was Perry. And I tell you, people, like, when we used to say to them, like, we're not brothers, they just couldn't get it. Like, in their mind we were just lying, we were just saying it for the sake of it, because we looked like literally a mini version. I was like a mini Perry, like he was my best friend. And I remember when they moved, I was gutted. I mean, like, you know, when you're little, it's like your first friend and your best friend as well. I was absolutely devastated. So, you know, this could be that. Maybe you reconnect with somebody from your childhood. Now, if you have siblings, they might play a part in this, right? Opportunities could come through your siblings. That's quite possible. If you're wondering about that Mars Uranus energy that's in your sign at the time of this, and it's sextile to the Jupiter, a change of, or rather a true revealing of yourself into the world is very possible, right? And it could absolutely skyrocket your reach via social media platforms. Get ready to introduce yourself to the world in a new way, Gemini, that really has people seeing you, right? Like, really seeing you. And this could, I mean, it could go, you know, way bigger than you expect. The trine to Neptune in your 11th house is amplifying your reach into the world with a lot of friends and benefactors, people that are coming in that really want to help you and maybe helping you create some form of a passive income. Now, to take that even further, that Jupiter is opposing Pluto in the ninth. Well, Pluto in the ninth is saying to you, it's not enough for you to just talk about the surface stuff now. You got to really dig into what you believe and why, and how your personal experience and or history is informing those beliefs. Now, for your for your blessings, better relationships with siblings, expansion of prominence in the local area. One of my subbies put in one of the videos, it's giving local celebrity. And I was like, yes, right? Like it quite literally, this could absolutely do that, depending on what planets you have in the third house as well, obviously, and whatever else is going on in your chart. We're just looking at sort of a snapshot of how these immediate transits on ingress could potentially affect your sign. Good responses to content. You know, you might put something out and people just absolutely love it and lap it up. Education could expand. It's, you know, your thirst for knowledge is already through the roof. This could bring a lot of cohesion to that. And I would not be surprised if a lot of Geminis say, right, I've got enough things under my belt. Let me start focusing more on what actually is going to move the needle forward and maybe enhancing or bringing together all of the knowledge or the skills that I've gained up until now. Marketing and sales can absolutely increase. You've got that golden tongue. If you know, if there were ever a time there's something that you need, if there's something that you want, this is the year to ask for it. Closed mouths don't get fed. Okay. Now, could also bring networking opportunities. I mean, nobody networks like a Gemini. You know, no one really. Lessons. Okay. Expanded arguments. Issues with neighbors, cousins, siblings could get worse if you already have them. Overhyping things or people, do watch out for that. Overselling, right? Be careful with this one. Over the next year, it's going to be so much better. Like, get excited about it, sell the damn thing. Yes, do all of that. But, you know, be realistic about it as well. Don't tell people, like, if you drink this, it's going to make you fly, right? Everyone knows Red Bull doesn't give you wings. It's a catchy slogan, right? But we know that it actually doesn't do that part of it. And I guess what I'm trying to say to you is, because Jupiter is all about integrity, it's important to under promise and over deliver instead of doing it the other way around, because that's when you're going to run into problems. Taking too many courses and finishing none. If you're already guilty of this, the shiny object syndrome, shout out to Cindy's Got Systems. She talks about this, she's brilliant. If yeah, if you already have shiny object syndrome, this could make this a whole lot worse, right? So I'm just saying, and the reason I'm giving you the lessons and the blessings is because you're going to get both, right? It's not just going to be like, oh, yes, this whole thing is amazing. I'm sure we know by now it doesn't work that way. So, how do you activate this Jupiter? To activate this Jupiter, optimism and expansion, especially around one-to-one connections, is going to be vital. Now, usually you're like you know, go everywhere, do everything with a little bit of everything with a little bit of everyone, right? That's a Gemini thing for sure. Instead of just having lots of friends and acquaintances, though, get excited about building real, deep, joyous connections on a one-to-one basis. This could absolutely see you meeting somebody really special. Doesn't have to be a significant other. It could be all types of people, or maybe a thawing out of your heart through building real connections. All right. So this is something that I want you to really consider. For oh my gosh, my brain's just gone completely blank. Uh Cancer. My lunar brothers and sisters. So for you guys, this is Jupiter moving into the second house. Now, this one is both the yay transit and also the one that I think most needs to be managed. And I say that out of love and gently, because what I've noticed is when it comes to Jupiter transiting the second, everybody just expects piles of cash to be raining from the sky. And it very rarely happens that way. You might get a blessing or two, like a, you know, a rebate or that's bigger than you expected, or you know, some kind of, do you know what I mean? Like there could be absolutely little pockets of wins, but it's very rarely like, yeah, that's it. Literally, you know, I do nothing all day and money just comes through the front door. Jupiter is opportunity. You've got to do something with it. You have to meet it, you know, halfway. Hmm, sorry, very dry. It's so warm here in the UK. And I realize our tiny little rock doesn't get as hot as some places in the world, but we are not equipped for it, and we are definitely not used to it. So we really feel it when it happens. That said, Jupiter moving through the second, first and foremost, on an internal level, because this is the house of your money, your finances, your possessions. It's also your diet and food. The second house is how you sustain yourself, like through what you eat. The second house also is your self-worth, value, and esteem. And so, first and foremost, what I think Jupiter is going to do is really start to heal and mend how you see yourself internally. But more importantly, it's going to heal and mend and bring a more cohesive outlook on money itself, on possessions and worth and value. Now, immediately, it's going to hit the square to Chiron in your 11th house. Well, the 11th house, aside from everything else that it represents, is the gains from your career or your business or your passive income. It's income or money that comes to you through other means, right? It's not necessarily other people's money, it's your money, but it's money that comes from the career, the profession, or whatever you have that, was that once upon a time. So it will be interesting to see sort of on the internal levels what starts to shift for you. Now, Jupiter in your chart rules Sagittarius, which is your sixth house of your physical health and vitality. It also rules your ninth house of your higher mind perspective and beliefs. And what's really interesting is this Jupiter then being in the second and the ruler of the sixth. There's definitely something in here around your diet, around your food habits, what you eat and why, when you eat, how you eat, all of the rest of those kinds of things. Now, Jupiter in the second, yay, absolutely yay, right? It could increase money for you. It could increase your earning potential, but it doesn't automatically guarantee those piles of cash are raining from the sky, right? Or just picture cancers like in the club, like, shaking it for Daddy Jupe, But I don't see all of you like posting pictures on social media and tagging me, and it said dancing for Daddy Duke, right? This is what it's like in my head all the time. I have like these little scenarios play out that I think are hilarious, and then when I explain them to my friends and stuff, they're like, okay. Anyway, just me. Uh, So for the next 12 months, you will need to lean into it. And obviously, because the sixth house is a daily house, the ninth house is your beliefs. So what do you believe? And how are those beliefs informing your day-to-day experience? What are you doing? What beliefs are shaping how you see yourself, how you value yourself? Jupiter is about cohesion and opportunity. And so it's going to really amplify your ability to make money, to attract resources, and even enhance your self-worth and esteem, which means for some of you, maybe you finally start charging for your services. Maybe you finally put your prices up. Maybe you finally decide to move on that thing that you know is going to make you more money. Maybe you decide to finally ask for the raise. Maybe you decide to turn, your side hustle or whatever it is, your hobby or whatever into a side hustle or a business. You don't have to, but maybe you do. Chiron squaring that Jupiter from the 11th, this could see you addressing the level of self-worth that you need to allow yourself to truly dream big, right? And so this might come around through some really important or interesting conversations with friends who you kind of look at and you're like, wow, like, yeah, you want more for yourself. You see yourself as, dot dot dot, not better than anybody else, but it really like click something for you where you're like, actually, yeah, like I want more, and why shouldn't I want more? It might require you to really think about how you fit into the groups that you're a part of, whether you feel ready to share more of yourself with the world. Social media is the 11th house as well. Since the 11th is also passive income, it could see you thinking about your longer term finances as well, like your future monies, as well as your current resources. And the opposition to Pluto in the eighth house can absolutely see your wealth grow beyond what you had expected. And as the saying goes, more money, more problems, okay? i.e., taxes, etc. And you've got obviously Pluto now in that eighth house for the next 18 plus years. So I'm fully expecting for, and Cancer's usually very good with money because they like cancers don't necessarily love money, but they do love that security, and money provides security. So it tends to be that cancers or people with strong cancer placements, they do pretty well because there's that nesting instinct. Over the next 18 years with Pluto in that eighth, you could really build, what I would call considerable wealth. Now, in a trine to Neptune in your where are you, Neptune? In your 10th house, I mean, of your career, right? This could really amplify the work that you're doing, or, your public image in some way, and your public presence could potentially amplify through that. I do find it ironic that Mercury retrograde in your first house and Jupiter in your second house. If the first house is the house of the self, Mercury shows that you are literally rethinking your mind, your outlook, your personality, how people see you. So you're rethinking all of that. And then internally, Jupiter's saying, yeah, while you're rethinking who you are and how you present to the world, let's really help you understand the worth and the value of who you are so that you can present yourself in the best way and in the best light. Like really, really interesting to me. I also think that mini combo is going to allow you to open up your awareness about where you've stopped yourself from having. Since Jupiter for you rules that sixth and ninth houses, it could come from new spiritual practices. It might even come through some form of education around how to manage, grow, or enhance your wealth on your own terms. So let's say you have a financial advisor. Maybe you start doing this for yourself. Maybe you start learning how to day trade. Maybe you start learning how to invest in various different things and practices and blah, 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 blah. So lots to think about here. Now, for the blessings of this transit, more money, obviously, expanded wealth, increased opportunities to gain wealth, expansion of self-worth, cleaning up of the diet, cleaning up of the self-worth, even though it's the second house, I do think that the self-talk, right? Because the ninth is the higher mind and the connection to God or the cosmos. The sixth house is the day-to-day. So this could also see your daily habits of eating really start to improve. This could see your daily habits of, also second house is teeth. So if you have problems or issues, if you've had problems or issues with your gnashers, this could be a really good time to get them sorted, because remember, Jupiter offers protection. So if there's something that you need, this is absolutely the time to go for it around those. Lessons, enhanced sweet tooth, especially in the second, sometimes the sixth, and Jupiter rules the sixth house for you. So increased appetite for sweet things, luxury goods, pleasurable goods, emotional spending. You'll need to watch out for that overspending, that YOLO mentality, like, fuck it, you only live once, put it on the credit card, man. Like, you know what I mean? You just watch out for that. Overestimating things materially. So an example of this that I saw actually with a friend, it wasn't necessarily that they'd overspent, but they saw this couch and they were adamant that no, I have to have it. And it's like it wouldn't even fit in their house, right? Like it wouldn't even fit in the room that it was for. And it's just because of a Jupiter. I say because of. There was a transit happening through their second house, and that's the story that really stood out, because I was like, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, but are you sure it's going to fit? Because this thing is massive, right? Jupiter, big. It's lush. I want it, he says, right? I have to have it. Okay, no problem. Um, they get in there. It's like, oh, it won't fit. You can imagine the dismay, right? Like, not only do you now have to return the thing, right? But just all the kerfuffle you can imagine. So don't be that person, right? The other lessons, if you have problems or issues with your teeth, if they're small, get them looked at now. If you've got a little hole in your tooth that catches you every so often and you're like, yeah, I'll get that sorted, get it done now. Because remember, Jupiter will expand whatever it touches. So if you've got a little hole, that will become a big hole. Get it sorted now. All right. That's one of the ways to when Jupiter highlights a problem for you, he's telling you, I'm going to expand this, so heal it now. Fix it now. All right. How do you activate this? Well, to activate this Jupiter, mending any and all self-worth and esteem issues, especially with that sextile to Chiron, thinking about not going it alone. All right, bringing a lightness to your attitude towards money, healing your connection to money, right? Instead of seeing, well, all rich people are crooks, okay, which means you'll probably never be rich. Why? Because you don't want to be a crook. Do you see the subconscious stuff that we carry now and how that needs to unpick? If you are willing and you want to get into that and you're really interested, I would say book an energy work session. I can absolutely help you with that. I'm thinking about bringing back the Abundance Block Smasher for a group session very soon, so stay tuned for that. It could also be a practical yet fun approach to a broader perspective on all things that money can do for you versus what really has value and worth in your world, and also personally to you. So another way that you could see this as well is, in order to really activate this, it's like leaning into the optimism and joy that security brings you and looking at that. Now, in the opposition to Pluto in the eighth, this is speaking to that because it's across the financial axis. So name it, right? It's not that I want excess money so that I can go to Vegas and do hookers and blow. I want more security for myself. I want to know that even if I do or don't have a partner, whatever happens, financially, I'm set, I'm straight, I'm secure. I can do this for myself, right? Hopefully that helps. Leo, Leo, Leo. This is the biggie for you, right? So, Jupiter coming into the first house, baby. I love, love, love this. Now, that being said, right, Jupiter in your chart rules the fifth house, which is a very lucky space in the chart because it rules Sagittarius, and it also rules the eighth house, which is Pisces, right? So Jupiter is the ruler of both of those spaces, and it's expressing itself in and through you. Your first house is your identity, your personality, and persona. It's the first you that people meet when they shake your hand. It's your first impression. The first house is also, when I say the identity, it's also the vehicle that you are driving, right? It's how you're moving through the world and how people see you, right? Not just your 10th house is how people see you. Your first house is also how people see you. Okay. Now, that being said, Jupiter moving through the first house. So a lot of people have said this, and it is definitely true. It does carry some literal weight. Jupiter moving through the first house can absolutely see you put on weight, right? I know that to be true. What I also know to be true is that when Venus happens to be transiting the first house before Jupiter moves into this sign, actually it can work the opposite way as well. So if you've struggled with weight, if you've had problems or issues with weight, the fact that Venus was already in your sign, now Jupiter comes in, this is going to be where your glow up happens. So over the course of the next year, I make this prediction that I think a lot of Leo people are going to go through a massive glow up in some way, shape, or form. Now, that being said, Leo, the planet. So Leo is obviously the sign of kings, queens, and celebrities, nobilities, and Pluto, Jupiter is all of those things as well. This is a once in 12-year transit, so it's pretty momentous, right? And at no point in history, certainly, at least has this happened with Chiron in Taurus and Pluto in Aquarius. That alone tells you that this transit is going to have a little touch of destiny about it. right? Pay attention. Pay attention. You'll already be feeling stuff stirring in the ether. I have. I mean, dreams and stuff aside, like I've felt something shifting. Now, all of you know I'm a Leo rising, but I'm a very late Leo rising, so I won't get the sort of goodies from this until sort of probably not until November. I will start to feel it, and then it will rescend a little bit because it will come back and then it will go forward again, right? So if you're a late degree Leo rising like myself, you will feel all of this, absolutely, but you probably won't get like the full whack or full hit of it until a little later on. And don't panic. There's goodies for everyone here, right? That being said, Jupiter in the first house, as I said, can bring that weight gain, but that Venus being there first matters. It really matters. I've seen this in several charts so far, and I know that I've had this experience personally. All right. So I think instead of gaining weight, there could be a lot of you that are about to lose it or go through some kind of huge glow up. And I think the glow up is going to be one that really shines or radiates from within you. Now, Jupiter also bringing cohesion, right? So, and with Venus bringing beauty and harmony, which means that as the transit starts, Venus is already in your sign. So this is going to work, in harmony and unison with Jupiter to enhance your beauty, your presence, and your physical self. As if all of that wasn't enough, the Venus is in a very wide trine to Saturn from the ninth house, right? So Venus is at 19, Saturn is at 14, so she's well past it at this point, but Saturn's a slow mover. So, I'm taking it. I know I'm stretching the orb quite far there, but I was like, you know what? Why not? Right? Maybe that's that Jupiter optimism working on me already. This to me suggests, though, the universe is preparing the vessel to hold more light, right? To hold more of everything, actually. Now, in the square to Chiron in that 10th house of your career, it's going to be the start of a change of the process and selfhood, right? So this is where you're going to start to really feel you're like, I'm driving towards something for myself that is really important here. Now, Chiron, obviously, so the identity crisis is over. That much I can say, right? When you think about Uranus left the sign of Taurus, and now Chiron has moved in to take its place up there in that 10th house. There's going to be a lot of questions around, do I feel worthy enough for recognition that I desire? And as the Oracle says to Neo, what's really going to bake your noodle about this whole thing later is that the reason that I haven't reached what it is that I desire yet? Right. So this, I think, is going to show you where you've really got in your way because your self-esteem, value, and or sense of self has been too much reliant on other people instead of your inside. And so Jupiter being in the first, bringing cohesion to the self, is kind of going to challenge that Chiron in the 10th to say, well, this is what everyone else thinks of me. Fuck that. And fuck them. What do I think of me? How do I see myself? How do I own myself? How do I possess myself? Right? How do I really own myself from the inside out? Cohesion. Right? It's going to bring all of your separate, disparate parts that have been out there and scattered into yourself. I've said this before in another video. If you haven't, and if you can feel that sort of fragmented, sort of scattered self energy, the Architect's Boardroom is absolutely for you. I designed it for that. Right. In fact, the Architect's Boardroom was actually born out of something that I needed to mend for myself. And I was like, this is phenomenal. And then even if I do say so myself, and then I tested it out on my inner sanctum. I've got 5-6 friends who are very, very close that I trust implicitly. I tested it out on them and they were like, yeah, this this works, right? If you would like that session, there's a link for it in the description box below. And so going back to this Venus, right? That Venus having moved through the first house before the ingress of Jupiter into this first house, I think is a lot more important in your chart specifically than we have given it credit for in other spaces, especially because she's the ruler of that Chiron up there in the 10th house, right? There's Chiron in the 10th in Taurus. Well, Venus is the ruler of that Chiron. And so while Chiron obviously doesn't rule anything. There is, it's kind of like a weird, wonky mutual reception in some way, even though it's not, right? But whatever Chiron is trying to kind of impart to you, whatever challenge is coming from that, it's like, okay, well, forget what everyone else thinks about me for a second. What do I think about myself? And can I be okay with that? Can I look myself in the mirror knowing that whatever other people's opinions of me are, it doesn't matter because I know myself well enough to understand who the fuck I am. Yeah, like it's a deep one for you guys. I think it's not just going to be like, yes, Leah has stepped into the room. I mean, there's obviously going to be a lot of that. And Venus is with you. So it means that not only are you able to translate this energy much more, but you're able to put it to use almost immediately. So while there's a lot of astrologers that are saying, yes, I think there's going to be some stuff. This is the mending and the healing. But I don't think people have really understood how difficult that Uranus transit of Taurus was for Leo people and exactly what it did, right? It took everything from past the ground, right? It rocked every foundation that Leo has about themselves. Why? Because it literally spent 7 years squaring your ascendant, which is what Uranus did, right? Now Chiron's in that space. It's going to say, okay, this place is a mess. There's wounds here. There's all of these things. Let's heal this space. And that has to come from within because look where Venus is. The sextile to Mars and Uranus in your 11th house, up here in that 11th of friendships and all the rest of it, it means that the opportunities come suddenly, surprisingly, potentially out of the blue, maybe from places or people that you really don't expect. And since the 11th house is things like social media, group connections, or even political ones, and these are things that really come through for you now. One thing that I really want you to think about here as well is the possibility that something that you really desire as a dream or a hope or an aspiration for the future, you could see this unfold at speed that you really didn't count on. And so I always liken this to, when the dogs are running for the ball and then when they get it, they end up flipping over because they weren't ready for it, right? They're running so fast that they don't stop to think like, oh, okay, what happens now I actually have the ball? Yes, something could go viral, but it could also be that a dream or a wish that you have is fast tracked and in a way that absolutely delights your soul, right? It's Mars and Uranus, so it will have a bit of like, okay, what the fuck, this is happening now. The trine to Neptune in your ninth house of beliefs, higher perspectives, your connection to the cosmos is bringing your spiritual self into the forefront, and it's asking you to begin creating and dreaming, but from your source connection, right? And so this is a channeling energy that really asks you to bring the heaven down from the stars to down to bring the heaven and the stars down to earth for me. That's from a track by Madonna. She's got a track called Isaac, which is, in my humble opinion, an absolute king masterpiece of a track. Like it's really, really good. I used to listen to this track for everything from sleep to running to like everything. It's just a brilliant, brilliant song. Um, Opposing Pluto in your seventh, though, right? Not only are you likely to are there likely to be powerful connections and allies that are made, but there might even be power struggles. But the one thing that's for certain here, there's an amplification of you and your presence, and maybe it attracts really powerful people. It's Chiron in the 10th. Not every eye that is going to gaze upon you will be friendly. Remember that. Pluto in the 7th, be discerning about the relationships and the ties that you make. Just really, really do. If you are single, you won't be within the scope of this transit. By the time Jupiter's done with your first house, I think you will be partnered. If you're partnered already, this is a time where the relationship is either mended or ended. There's no in between. This is Pluto we're talking about. And since Jupiter is going to amplify Pluto because it's opposing it, and these two are, Pluto is the planet of power. Jupiter is the king, right? So when these two, they're going to amplify this. So whatever's going on in your relationship, if it's good and it's solid, it will get better and even stronger. If it's challenged and it's an issue, it will end, right? And there's no in between. Since Jupiter rules your fifth and your eighth, your sex appeal to a Leo, as if you needed any help, right? Your sex appeal could absolutely grow, but so could your wealth via your personality and your star power. Especially and more likely only if you heal the Chiron stuff in the sign of Taurus. Lastly, because Chiron is a part of this and it's setting up a T square, that Pluto and Jupiter are the opposition, Chiron's the way out, right? And so the way through the challenge, it means that your priority will and must be the healing of your reputation and public image as you decide that it's going to be, not the other way round. Not just because it's taken a hit, which it might, it's not a guarantee, but because you've been a bit sporadic for a while, right? It's time for you to mend your ability to show up and be consistent. That's a really important lesson. It has been for me because for a long time with Radiant Reality, like clockwork, for 3.5 years, I did weekly readings every week, guaranteed. I never missed a week. On top of that, I used to do special transit. Like at one point, it was like 80 plus videos a month that I was churning out consistently for 3.5 years. That was a slog, right? It was really, really hard work, but I loved it and I showed up. And then I really needed a break, right? I really needed a break. It also suggests that a healing of how you see yourself and value yourself is coming through here. Because in order for you to shine from within as a bright star, like Venus wants you to do, like Jupiter wants you to do, you're going to have to heal that 10th house stuff. Of all of the signs, I think that you and the other fellow fire signs are the ones who the material codex is going to serve best. You might remember just a while back, I put out, I did a promo around a product. It's kind of like it's not a course, it's an experience. That's the only way that I can put it. I created, it's called the Material Codex. If you are a rising fire sign, it means that you have earth houses in 2, 6, and 10. If this is you, the material codex will serve you better than anyone else moving forward, especially over the course of this transit. So, for the blessings of this transit, expansion of self, growth of presence, star power, as if you don't already have it, Leo, lightness of being, attraction of power, attraction power in general, attracting or magnetizing, powerful people to you or in your life, a glow up, gaining knowledge about the self or through the self, recognition for your skills might not be immediate. Remember, you got the square to Chiron going on, personal cohesion, a collection of all of your separate pieces finally coming all into one sort of PowerPoint that you can work with. The lessons of this transit, the weight gain, overdoing it, overconfidence, tyrannical behavior. Please watch out for that one. Blind faith, misplaced belief in people or connections. Oh, yeah, I've met this person and no, they are trustworthy. They're going to show up like they said they were going to show up. Arrogance, foolhardiness. Jupiter offers protection, and in your first house, it can absolutely protect you. For that reason, you can see people get a bit overzealous because this rules the ninth house. This could be that you start sort of really trying to force your beliefs, etc., on other people. All stuff to watch out for. Now, how do you activate this Jupiter? Well, obviously through optimism, that's how you're going to activate this. But I really think that since Jupiter is also a principle of healing as well, this isn't just a glow up about how you look. It's about how you feel in yourself, in your own skin. It's about healing that connection that you have to yourself, to your body, to your identity, right? Now that all of the tower moments with the career, etc., are done, this is about you coming home to yourself and understanding that, it's a really shitty line to quote, but it's the one that's coming to mind right now, so it makes sense. And that is, you had the power all along, right? You had the slippers, you had the ruby slippers. What does that tell you, right? And it's it seems like a mind play now when you look at it from this perspective and this day and age. But actually, after all the tower moments, after all the Uranus in Taurus stuff, now I think this is the time where Chiron says, okay, let's mend how you see yourself. And Jupiter says, okay, let's mend how you possess yourself. And the two in the square, remember, a square in astrology creates enough tension for you to say, fuck this, I'm not having this experience again, I'm going to do something about it. And so this is really helping you feel that much more comfortable in your own skin. And then helps you feel like, how do you feel when you're shining your radiance out to the world? And more importantly, are you ready? So you should be able to see the resource. So for you guys, get rid of this. Hopefully you're looking at the chart. All right. So for you guys, this is happening in your 12th house, right? So as you can see from the chart here, you've got Jupiter there in the 12th. You've got, interestingly enough, at the time that this starts, actually, your ruler, Mercury, is retrograde in the sign of Cancer and literally has just started his retrograde. It's not lost on me that there's definitely something in that, right? It's just really interesting, especially because it's the ruler of obviously your ascendant, but also your 10th house. And so, therefore, that Mars Uranus conjunction in the 10th, in the career sector, the public persona, and Mercury going retrograde, certainly looking at the past in some way or rehashing, redevising, redefining what your 11th house is, right? Your future goals, aspirations, hopes, visions, and goals for the future, what you envision yourself to one day be, or what you envision to be building for yourself, is being rethought at the moment. And as that stuff really starts to shift, it's interesting because then you've got this Mars Uranus conjunction that's sort of applying and getting very strong at this point because they're only 2 degrees apart in that 10th house. And so it's possible that, as you feel yourself starting to change and the desire of where it is that you really want to go, how it is that you want to show up in the world is starting to shift as well. It may be that there's someone, or maybe a group of someone's, because the 11th house is your social media presence, right? And the 10th house is your worldly presence. So as you're starting to make shifts, or you decide actually there's new ways or avenues or pathways that I want to explore, there might be a little bit of pushback, or maybe it just goes a lot faster than you expect. Now, that being said, obviously that's all happening in the background, but this Jupiter moving into the 12th. So Jupiter for you rules the 4th house because it rules Sagittarius, and it also rules the 7th house because it rules Pisces. So as the ruler of your 4th and your 7th, so the 4th house of home, property, real estate, family, living situation, your deep emotional makeup, the 7th house of relationships, partnerships, personal, professional, or platonic, Jupiter coming into the 12th house then is going to be highlighting the need for you to heal, right? To heal the deeper and more connective spaces of your chart. A transit of Jupiter through the 12th isn't just guardian angel energy, but it's also growthful and beautiful in a way that's a lot more cohesive to your mental and your spiritual health. Now, many of you know I'm a Leo rising, so I've literally just gone through this transit, and I can tell you, so I remember the last one of, the last pass of 2014/15. And I understand exactly the function that it sort of played out then. However, in the here and now, it's just very interesting. And obviously there's a lot to be said for age. We're a lot more mature. So, because the last time this happened, I would have been just about to turn 30, right? So, having it sort of happen now, at this point, having Jupiter just move through my 12th house, I can really see the kind of cohesion and healing and abundance of spirit that it's brought me. I can really see how it's made my internal landscape that much better. It's helped clarify and clear up my dreams. They're a lot more in my command now than they ever have been before, and that's saying something, because many of you know prophetic dreams, etc. That stuff that's bread and butter for me. It's very normal stuff. This, however, this pass of Jupiter through Cancer has been very, very different. And so the reason I tell you all of this stuff about myself is because this Jupiter moving through the 12th house, it's not just that guardian angel energy, but it's bringing a lot more growth, a lot more beauty, a lot more rest, a lot more recuperation, a need to enjoy what you can away from the world, right? A desire to bring your mind, your spirit, and your psyche into a greater sense of alignment, which is beautiful. Now, a transit of Jupiter through the 12th, as I say, I call this guardian angel energy, and it truly is that. It's the protection from the spirit realm, it's the protection from the other space, it's the protection from your ancestors as well. Now, obviously, how this really expresses itself, you will want to look to where the sun is in your chart, because that's going to have a lot to say about this. Now, Jupiter, obviously, in the sign of Leo, even if it is in the 12th house, it's a bit more active, all right, because Leo is a fire sign, it's a masculine energy. Now, that being said, with this true guardian angel energy, the way that I always explain this to people is when you kind of get to the point with something where you're like, you know what? I don't know, right? I've tried, I've thrown everything at it. I don't fucking know what else I can do here. At that moment, the universe usually sends you something or someone to help and or support you. Remember, Jupiter is helpful people. These could come, you know, very physically, very materially in the real world, but it could just as easily be information or insight or even prophecy or vision that comes through the dreamscape, right? So your expenses are potentially going to expand here. Jupiter through my 12th over the last year. I mean, it's no secret, obviously, that I moved into a home and that Jupiter in the 12th. Let's just say it's been a rather expensive year. So I can definitely attest to that. It may not do that for you, right? Obviously, it depends where your sun is and, you know, various other placements, but I can tell you it's definitely a possibility. Your expenses are potentially going to inflate here, but so will your capacity to meet them, both internally and externally. And this is what I mean by this cohesion that takes place. It's like you see something and you're like, oh gosh, okay, this is happening now. And something in you is able to rise up to meet whatever that challenge is. It's also worth noting as well that the feeling of whatever it is that comes up, whether it's challenging and when you think to yourself like, oh, okay, what am I going to do about this? It really will be like a guardian angel sort of steps in to say, okay, you know what? I've got this. Or someone steps in on your behalf and says, actually, I've got this on your behalf. This is Jupiter bringing a really much greater sense of cohesion to the deeper parts of yourself, your soul, your psyche, and it brings a reconnection to the trust that you have in the universe, a greater depth of sleep, right? So your sleep will absolutely improve. 12th house is the boudoir, darling. So if you're partnered, married, or in a long-term commitment and it's been a bit dry in the sack, this is a time where, you know, you can really mend or heal that. If you are single, it could be that you are, you know, starting to explore your sexuality that much more with a person or a partner or, you know, someone that comes in. That being said, remember the 12th house is the past and Jupiter rules your seventh. So this could be a reconnection for a lot of you with people from your past lovers, past coaches, past mentors, past gurus, past authority figures, past benefactors and or friends. Remember, Jupiter is all of the higher sort of, you know, the upper echelon types. So if you've got people like that from your past, you could be reconnecting with them over the next year. Now, it could also bring dreams which can uncover lucrative moves or directions for you. In the square to Chiron in your ninth house, right? Chiron is now in the sign of Taurus in your ninth. That square is going to be active and activating, and it's setting up a fixed T-square. And so what have your beliefs cost you is what Chiron is really asking you. What is it that you've taken on board, you know, as something that you inherited as an idea, as this is what we do, right? We do this, right? We being the collective or whatever collectives that you are a part of, and maybe, you know, like as an example, obviously, you know, my surname is Ray. So if I were to say like, oh, we Rays do this, That's a belief, but it's a belief that I may have inherited from or through my family and their actions. Since Jupiter is in the 12th house for you, it's asking you, it's giving you a chance to really connect to your spiritual soul and self. The ninth house is not just, beliefs that you inherit, but it's also what's the word that I'm looking for? It's the perspective on your connection to the cosmos, right? So in ancient astrology, this was called the house of God. How you make space in your daily life, in your practice, in your religious and spiritual outlook, and your perspective on life for connection to source, God, divine, whatever that might be, is really what's being sort of brought up here. And a square between the ninth and the 12th, this is a very spiritual, set of houses, right? The 12th house is literally your connection to the other, right? To the intangible realm. And the ninth house is your connection through your beliefs and your practices to the cosmos, right? So there is a spiritual renaissance going on here for a lot of you, I feel. It could also be that your beliefs are being challenged by something that comes up from or through the past, maybe through a family member, Jupiter rule in the fourth, maybe through a partner, a connection, a collaborator, somebody that you're in contract with, Jupiter ruling the seventh, right? So all of these things are to think about. If you have a self-sabotaging tendency, Jupiter can absolutely expand that. And in the square to Chiron, you're going to get a sharp look at why you believe what you do and what is it inside you that is creating that self-sabotaging tendency. A teacher, a mentor, a coach, or a guru could help you with this. Chiron in the ninth, you could find somebody who is really holistic, very embodied, maybe a somatic therapist, somebody that really has that very grounded, very earthy, but they're going to demand from you, right? Like this is the thing. This is Chiron in the ninth in Taurus squaring that Jupiter. So internally, the cohesion is already starting to happen at those deeper levels of soul and psyche. But if you're, working with a teacher, a mentor, a therapist, a coach, or a guru, or whatever the case might be, this could be somebody that really, really pushes you to, to dig in. Like, why do you believe this? And more importantly, what do you think it's costing you? The sextile to Mars and Uranus in your career sector, the career developments might be, very public shifts that take place, and opportunities for more recognition could come up whether you want them or not. Remember that Jupiter in the 12th is kind of saying, yeah, I feel like I want to pull away for a bit and just kind of have, time to figure out what it's going to be. And that Mars Uranus is potentially kind of saying, well, the opportunity is here and it's here now. What are you going to do with it at this moment in time? Um, I kind of feel like the Jupiter energy is probably gonna, it will offer you a lot of protection, but that Mars Uranus is kind of saying, nope, you've got stuff to do here. This is, you might, yeah, it's kind of something's thrust in your face, and you're like, okay, I don't know if I can ignore this. In the trine to Neptune in your eighth house, I love this for psychic and spiritual vision, and your powers of perception, ESP, all of that kind of stuff really being enhanced. Neptune amplifying that psychic vision and receptivity in the eighth house and giving you a yearning to discover more of what you really feel is out there and how you can access that, right? This is your ability to sense energy and spirit being truly magnified and put into your sort of direct hands in some way. Now, the blessings of this time: good sleep, sweet dreams, lucrative dreams, potentially prophetic dreams, more sex, better sex, rest time, recuperation time, healing past traumas, reconnections from past lovers and or family members. This could also be through your dreamscape as well, that you reconnect with people. Guardian angel energy, expansion of the mind, the soul, and the psyche, connection to the divine. Beautiful. The lessons: escapism, overindulgence in drugs, alcohol, anything that really helps you kind of dissociate from life or from the world is very possible here. Issues with grandparents are possible. Old habits could resurface. Like if you had, like, let's say you smoked 10 years ago, you could pick it back up, right? Mental health challenges are possible here as well. Large expenses, hospital stays, maybe not necessarily on your own behalf. Hidden enemies. One thing that I will say about the hidden enemy side of it, on the one hand, sometimes the hidden enemy is the call that's coming from inside the house. Yes, that could be somebody that you live with, blah, de, blah, de, blah. That's possible. Jupiter rule in the fourth, Jupiter rule in the seventh. But what I usually mean when I say that is this could be where the self-sabotaging tendency is the call that's coming from within the house, right? This is where it's like, oh, okay, actually, all of this drama that just erupted, that's on me. And here's where it came from, right? I acted like this or chose to do this, and I knew that this was going to make these people behave like that, and it all kicks off, right? This could be a time where you really start to understand your own patterns through the unconscious lessons that are playing out. Sometimes this is why I say, right, the hidden enemy is actually us. It's, or as Mama Ru says, your inner saboteur, right? Very possible. This could also, however, expand or what I have personally found, and I will be forever grateful to Jupiter over this, even though it's been a hard year and I've had some really tough knocks, I'm not going to lie, some stuff that really winded me. But every single fucking time someone has tried to do me a dirty or has talked about me behind my back or whatever, some of these I haven't even spoken about yet. All right. Every single time, I guarantee you, this is Jupiter in the 12th, right? Every single time that has happened this year, it's found its way to my ears, even if I didn't want to hear it, right? It's found its way to my ears. I found out in some way. That's how Jupiter operates. So if you've got haters, if you've got people in the background that are backstabbing you and doing all of that stuff, the way that Jupiter will protect you, remember, Jupiter represents knowledge. So the way that Jupiter will protect you is by bringing that knowledge to you. Whatever is hidden, whatever is said about you in rooms where you're not there to defend yourself, which, by the way, makes you a piece of shit. Right, calling it as it is. If you can't say something to someone's face, but you can say it to everybody but them, you're a piece of shit, quite frankly. Just calling it as it is. And if that makes you uncomfortable, then I guess we know what that means. All of that aside, that's very, very heavy handed. What I will say is it will find its way to you. The knowledge, Jupiter will come to you because Jupiter is in your 12th house protecting you from the issues, the problems, or even the hidden enemies that you can't see. All right. So that's one of the ways that that function might play out. So how do you activate this? This is Jupiter in the 12th through prayer, through spiritual connection, through meditation, through inner journeying, honesty, courage of heart and soul, using wisdom, speaking up when you would rather just hide from the world, having the guts, right? Having the balls or the tits to stand up and be counted and say what you've got to say, even if it disrupts things. Optimism, obviously, it's Jupiter, but you activate this by building a true spiritual practice where you can connect with divinity and foster real trust in that divinity. All right. Like this has to be all about your way of connecting with the cosmos. So next, Libra, this is happening in your 11th house. So you can see here, Jupiter up here in the 11th house. Now, this is a nice placement. Even though it's not exalted in Cancer anymore, it is exalted in the 11th house. Jupiter is exalted in the 11th. It can absolutely see you having benefactors, people that want to shout your name out, people that want to support you, people that want to come forward and invest in you, people that can see your vision of the future and all of that good stuff. And this is an expansion. So for you, Jupiter rules this third house of Sagittarius. It rules the sixth house of Pisces, right? So third house, your local environment, neighborhood, the area around the house that you live in. Third house is also content creation. It's how you get your message out. It's communications, conversations, writing and speaking, all of those things. The third house is also siblings, cousins, and neighbors. The sixth house is your locality as well, but it's the daily grind, right? The sixth house is the job, it's the gym, it's the bank, it's the maintenance that you have to do on all of the things that you have, as well as your physical health and vitality. And so expressing itself in Leo through that 11th house, Jupiter gains a lot of dignity through that 11th house because he's exalted there. So, in a sextile to your own sign, this is hugely welcome. And as the ruler of your third and your sixth, Jupiter is going to see you fostering a lot of great connections in your local area and building a wider network of friends or connections that could really help your goals and your dreams, as well as bringing cohesion to your future vision, what you see for the future, how you see, your life moving forward. Jupiter in this space is prone to and likely to bring a lot of benefactors your way or noble people into your world who can and will absolutely support you. Now, that being said, it is in a square to Chiron. And remember, Chiron for you is in the eighth house of other people's money, finances, and resources, taxes, debts, loans. It's also the house of death and expiration in that regard, the house of transformation. Now, one of the ways that I see this potentially showing up, because remember, it's a square. Squares make you uncomfortable enough to speak up, to do something about it, where you kind of say, fuck this, I'm not having this experience again. And so one of the ways that I think that this might play out is that maybe you do have several benefactors that come in and they all want to help and support you in some way, shape, or form. However, with that square to Chiron in the eighth, this could be, they say like whoever has the gold makes the rules. Well, you might say, listen, you know what? I would absolutely love for you to be an investor, but if you can't be a silent partner or accept that actually, for whatever you decide to invest, you only get to sort of be a consideration in the final decisions that are made. The final decision is mine to make. This is about you having to really sort of command the space and say, listen, what I say goes. It doesn't matter how much money you invest in the project is mine and it's going in the direction that I choose for it to go in. So, that's quite possible. It's also possible that over the course of the next 12 months, you might start to realize where friendship and money don't necessarily mix, and they probably shouldn't. All right. It could also be that you're being called to transform the friends that you have, the connections that you have, the social circles that you're currently aware of that are in your sphere of existence. And as you will, as well as your audience, right? If you have one, now this could see you building an audience, that could be great. Might also see you begin changing yourself in your life and healing at a really deep level of your psyche, your wounds, your psychic and spiritual gifts could really come further online here as well. That Chiron in the eighth is not just about transformation and healing pain. And yes, it's going to be all of that, but it could also bring it could really tear away the shit so that you can say, like, actually, I have psychic gifts and I'm going to use those puppies, right? I think this is you discovering how you expand your life through your connections by understanding which ones are either supporting or hindering your growth. In a sextile to Mars and Uranus in your ninth house, look at that, right? Mars and Uranus in the ninth. I love Mars in the ninth. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know about that, but I love it. This could be a very surprising development that comes from a teacher, a coach, a mentor, or a guru. It's possible that you're invited to teach or to take on a set of responsibilities that you had never considered before. And in that opposition to Pluto from the fifth house, it's like effectively demanding a greater sense of self-expression, and it's asking you, what are you deciding to start sharing with the world now? It kind of feels like that Jupiter is also saying, like, who are you? And when are you going to start sort of sharing that story with the world? When are you going to start sort of showing people who you are? If you have children, they could be very demanding at this time. I mean, you got Pluto in your fifth house. It's going to be there for a good old while, right? So the kids are going to be what they're going to be. That being said, this can also show you how youth, self-expression, creativity really are power moves when they are applied. There's only one pass of this opposition, luckily, but it is Jupiter and Pluto, which means it's going to pack a wallop. The 11th house is also the gains from your business. So this could absolutely see you enhancing your earning potential, your passive income, your income streams. Maybe one of these benefactors or investors, really says, look, I'm going to put you on some game here and I'm going to show you how to make this money. Hey, some creation of yours, that thing in the fifth house, could really explode, but it's going to require you being really comfortable being seen as or who you are. Now, the blessings of this transit: help from friends or noble people, expansion of passive income, opportunities to earn more money, expansion of the earnings from the business or the career, new friends, expansion of the social circle, better pathways to dreams that open up. Remember, Jupiter is the principle of levity, is the principle of vision and the future, right? It's a very future orientated house. And so for me, I kind of feel like this is, because the inner psychic senses are really coming online, this could be pulling you up inward to say, right, I'm going to dream of a much better future for myself now. And I'm going to send the energy or my personal power along those lines of inquiry. And I'm going to see what it is that comes back to me. So expanded future vision. If you've never had a future life progression session, I would advise you to go and see my friend Radiant Angel Energy. Her name is Ray. I've done several of her shows. She's brilliant at it. Or Anjesh. These are the two people that I would say are, in my humble opinion, there's lots of FLP practitioners, but these two I think are some of the best, right? And yes, I'm biased because I know them, but for you guys, over the course of this next 12 months, go and have a future life progression, because Jupiter is in the house of the future in your chart. This could absolutely benefit you. Prophetic sight into future dreams could come up. Help or support from government or legal structures. Protection from friends via this could come, protection from friends either via social media or, literally via your sphere of existence. Social media and presence and audiences can absolutely increase under this transit as well. So the lessons: problems with friends, too many obligations, being in high demand. Doesn't always, it sounds great, right? But it's not always. Excess of superfluous people, too many cooks spoil the broth kind of energy, guilty by association, right? You're a part of this group and this group has a massive scandal and everybody's like, Scarlet Human, Scarlet Lettered Human, you're attached to them and right? Wrong place at the wrong time. For this one, because Jupiter in your chart rules two sectors that represent the locality, I want you to be really clear on the point that I'm about to make. When your body says, nope, we shouldn't be here, I don't care if it's a sunny day. I don't care if your favorite celebrity is screaming your name. If, I don't care if they're handing out money in line or whatever. If your body tells you this is not where I'm supposed to be right now, you get the fuck out of there and make it sharpish. One thing that Jupiter can do really well, because it's a protective influence, in yours, it's in the 11th house, right? There's something about this that generates the 11th house in particular. And because Jupiter for you rules that third and the sixth, I don't know why. I've seen this a few times, and it's like I've often said to people, like, have you ever been in the wrong place at the wrong time? And they're like, yeah. Check this out, right? So what I'm going to say to you is, if you have this placement natally, I think you'll already know what I'm talking about. And if you have got this natally and you understand exactly what I'm talking about, please drop a comment so that I can know, right? Put the Libra glyph and put the double hands, and I'll know exactly what you're talking about. And hopefully we can have a little conflab about it in the comments. But as this is transiting your 11th house, it's going to highlight to you where you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Third house is the local neighborhood. Sixth house is the milling around, the commute to work and all of that stuff. That's all very third, sixth house stuff. So, when you find yourself in an environment and your body's like, I don't want to be here, this does not feel good to me, trust it and get the hell out. All right. How do you activate this? Well, through connections to others, obviously, finding the connections and interactions that make you smile, feeling optimistic and like luck, and feeling optimistic and tapping into luck are activating keys to making Jupiter work. But you want to do this in groups or even membership style settings. It's a great idea to be available and visible in your local area and to think about where you can volunteer your time, right? And I say this because that sixth house is burdens. Well, if you take on a burden on purpose, what happens? It alleviates the challenges here. So lots of good stuff for you, Libra. You'll have to let me know in the comments how it shapes up. Scorpio, 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 Scorpio. For you, this is happening in the 10th house. Your career sector, baby, is about to get a whole shake up. Well, it's not really a shake up, is it? It's like Scorpio's in the house there. Right? Like it's giving career upgrade, right? Look, you've got Venus was there first. You've got Jupiter coming in second. Now, if you've watched any of the previous raw videos, I have mentioned this several times. What I have noticed is when Venus goes into a sign and clears that sign, and then Jupiter is the one that enters after her, that whole sector of someone's life tends to go through a huge glow up of some sort. Um, it's just a really lovely phenomena. Now, this is happening in your 10th house of your career, social status, public standing. It's your, social status is homeowner, married, husband, wife. Social status is orphan, homeowner, business owner. All those things are statuses of sorts. But it's also the legacy that you're leaving behind, the thing that is going to outlast you, that one day people will look on and say, that person was here. That's the 10th house, along with parents. In particular, it's usually the most masculine of the parents in the way that I understand this. That could be vice versa. I know lots of women that can change a tire and, rebuild engines and stuff. And I know lots of men who can sew and cook and clean and keep a household and vice versa. I know a lot of guys, myself included. I'm very, very nurturing as a man. I love to nurture people, to look after them, to support them. I love to cook for people. Like that's me, right? You fill my house with people and food, or I will fill the place with food and cook for them and all of that sort of stuff. I love that kind of stuff. I haven't been able to do it for the last 2 years, which has been very hard. But for me, that I love all of that, right? And so this is why I say, like, it's not necessarily about gender roles, but the 10th house tends to be the more masculine parent, the one that's a bit more. Now, that being said, 10th house is also authority figures. All right, like it's people that you look up to or are beholden to in some way. So as Jupiter comes into this 10th house, the career sector, and the people and the places in which people see your public persona, this is, and whenever we have stuff happen in the 10th house, whatever it is, it's going to be very, very public. Now, in your chart, Jupiter rules your second house of money, finances, and resources. It also rules, excuse me, it also rules the fifth house. Fifth house is luck, speculation, gambling, children if you have them, your personal business if you have one. The fifth house is joy, creativity, self-expression. The fifth house also rules over your competitive nature and or sports and hobbies. The second house is your money, your finances, your resources, your materials. It's your food and your diet. For some, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of Scorpio rising people announce like I'm now a vegan, or I was vegan for 20 years and now I eat meat. Because Jupiter's more about cohesion, it probably won't be something that's shocking. it might be something that's more of a natural progression, but it feels like the right direction for you to go in. Now, this is the planet of luck and expansion coming into the career. Jupiter is a very bright star. It's a star of magnetism, so it can really see you drawing in authority figures. Relationships with authority figures can absolutely be enhanced or come in. You might find that you connect with real power players in your industry, whatever that might be, coming into that career, which means that your chance to really increase your earnings and the luck and the opportunities to enhance your career. Remember, the fifth house is luck, speculation, and gambling as well. This is a time where your relationships with authority figures can absolutely increase and get better. In the square to Chiron in your seventh house, relationships are going to be challenged here. Does that mean all Scorpio rising people are suddenly getting a divorce? No. What it means is you are now starting to understand where it is that your relationship to people, personal, professional, platonic, familial, on that one-to-one level, something about it needs to shift or it needs to change. Something about the way that your career is shifting and changing may start to press in on your relationship. So if you're partnered, you're partnered, married, or in a long-term commitment, your partner could be like, I'm so happy for your career success right now, but I feel like I never see you, right? Your partner is looking out for you and worried about you, and maybe they're saying, look, you're working too hard, you're working too much, so they kind of get on you about it a bit. It could also be that around career relationships as well. These could be shifting, they could be adapting at this time, and so you're trying to sort of find your feet with it. The types of people that you're going to be attracting could be a bit more of a healing balm for your soul, but this comes, the way that I feel like this comes through, it might be through a dramatic exit or two, or potentially a dramatic entrance. Maybe it's someone that comes into your life and says, oh, honey, these priorities, oh no, these are not going to work for me. Like, if we're getting together, I'm going to need you to be, having more time off. I'm going to need you to let me pamper you. I'm going to need you to, do you know what I mean? So really that Chiron in the seventh is allowing you to heal from any and all past or previous relationships that did not allow you to feel like you were held, seen, looked after, supported, loved on. And that check from Jupiter in the 10th is to say, like, listen, I love that you're being more successful. I really, really do. I'm not going to have it come at the cost of my partner's health. I'm not going to have it come at the cost of our relationship, right? And so obviously read the signs. If there are red flags and this person is trying to dim your shine, kick that bitch to the curb, right? And I'm talking about the guys there when I say bitch. Right. All jokes aside, manage it, right? Look for it. Is it a red flag, or is it that this person is saying, no, you are working too hard, and you're like, actually, yeah, I've just done 3 14-hour days back to back and I'm exhausted, and my partner is telling me so because they're worried about me. Do you know what I mean? Like, you obviously read the room. If it's just that they're like, oh, wow, you're doing really well at the moment, but what about us? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you guys, I don't need to explain this to Scorpios. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. When you look at the chart, all of the planets in your chart, in a Scorpio rising chart, look, everything's on that left side of the chart. Now, in my tradition, we say that so the right side of the body is the future, the left side of the body is the past. And yet, in a chart, this is all stuff to do with other people. This is all stuff to do with out there in the external world. So there's something to be said with that, right? There's a present or a future energy about this. Since Jupiter is also going to oppose Pluto in your fourth house, fourth house, 10th house dynamics tend to really force the issue around what your home and domestic life and familial ties are, demanding from you, and what your career and or your social or public status is demanding from you. So you're going to have to find a way to manage this, because both are going to be expanding in some regard. And I actually think this could be very good for you. I think for a lot of you, it might be unexpected change of the home life that you sort of really can't ignore. Chiron as the way through the challenges here, right? In that seventh, it's about your right partners and connections, and also the right kind of binding commitments that promote healing, safety, peace, regulation, right? It means being really honest about the ones that just don't anymore. It makes me wonder as well, like if you'll forge a partnership with an authority that could be really great for you long term, but it's like they demand a lot from you in the process. And then finally, in the sextile to Mars Uranus in that eighth house, Mars Uranus, especially in a monetary space, can very often bring like huge gains or huge losses. Now, if you're in a position and you think, like, yeah, okay, I'm not, hugely flush, it's likely to be, that it's likely to be an expansion of this, or certainly opportunities to really expand your wealth that you didn't see coming. It could also be because the eighth house is about debts. It could be that somebody spontaneously pays you back a debt over the next year, or somebody comes forward and says, I feel like you owe me this. Maybe you feel like you owe somebody. In the trine to Neptune in the sixth, I think you're going to be a lot more focused on your physical health and vitality. And I think you're going to be really clear on what you need to do to heal your life. But also, I think you're going to be really sensitive to your environment. And so, whatever the opportunities are, and it's interesting because the fifth house and the eighth house are indicated here as well. And even though these are positive alignments, we're looking at a sextile, we're looking at a sextile, and we're looking at a trine. I would also say, if now Scorpios, you guys are really good at this anyway. Like Scorpios tend to sense things before they're coming. I always see, like, it's really funny because even though you guys are Scorpios, I see Scorpio as like Spider-Man, like with the spidey sense and all. Like for me, Scorpio has always been a spider. And this is why I think like you guys have a really good intuition in this way. My feeling about this is I'm not saying we're going to have another COVID or, whole round of lockdowns. What I am saying is that combination of energies could make it easier for some of the negative traits to unfold as well. And so, what I would say is if you go to work one day and you think, three people are sick and it seems to be getting worse, get yourself out, right? The sixth house is your area. Make whatever excuse you need to work from home, right? If that's a possibility. Like if you're a barber, obviously you can't do that, right? Like, oh, I'm going to cut your hair from home. With one of those new robots, an AI robot, like hopefully it doesn't glitch, right? Jokes aside, you know what I'm saying. So keep an eye on that. All right. Like, but outside of that, I think you could have, because Jupiter, Neptune, I think is going to be great for entertainment. And you could come up with some really wonderful ideas and or solutions for things. Now, for the blessings, greater recognition and success in the career, increased visibility, stronger authority within your field. You could really be recognized now for a greater sense of just being who you are. Love that for you. Increased earning potential, luckier feelings around career, opportunities for or through children, opportunities to, for some of you, might be changing marital status. Single is a marital status, partnered, married statuses, all of these. Cohesion of ideas around the legacy that you wish to leave behind. The lessons here feeling too visible, right? Scorpio is not, they're not, they like to fly under the radar a bit. Issues with authority could unfold. Issues with a parent figure are also possible here. Money could be flowing out, and you're like, oh my gosh, overspending on ideas, empty promises, and around promotions. That sort of thing, I would say you can, just call it out where you see it and stamp it out clean. Overspending on looking the part, right? Like, no, I have to have these three sort of gold plated, neckties or whatever, you know what I mean? Right? Wasted career opportunities, that's possible. Issues with father type parents. How do you activate this, right? By allowing yourself to be seen, It's about finding the joy and the optimism in who you know yourself to be and presenting that version of yourself to the world. Take calculated risks and chances that tend toward the direction that you hope to reach in your career. Put yourself in luck's way, right? By being available and visible. Align with authority figures and people of noble status. Position yourself as an authority in your field and be bold about claiming that title, right? Don't be afraid or ashamed to claim that, like, yes, I'm a master in this field, or yes, I'm an authority on this subject, right? Whatever that might be. Sagittarius. So this conjunction, this Jupiter transit for you is taking place in the ninth house. So this is a house that you're deeply intimately connected to and with. You understand this house really well because it's the natural space of your sign. There's definitely an overlap between the two things. You can see here your ruler Jupiter in the ninth house in Leo. Certainly from a whole sign perspective, and depending on, aside from your ascendant, whatever else you have in Sagittarius, you are potentially getting a beautiful grand fire trine here, especially if you've got anything in the first sort of 5 degrees of stretch it even and go to 7 degrees, the first 7 degrees of Sagittarius, right? You're getting a really nice grand fire trine between Jupiter and Neptune and whatever you have in that space. Same way could be said because Venus is obviously a very wide angled trine to Saturn. So if you've got anything around the midpoint of Sagittarius, let's stretch it again. So anywhere from like 12 to say 16, 17 of Sagittarius, you'll also be getting a grand fire trine as this ingress chart comes to life. So that could be really nice for you. Now, Jupiter in your chart obviously rules you. It rules your first house. It also rules your fourth house of your home, family, property, real estate. Now, the way that I see the first house is it's the space of, yes, the identity and the persona and all of that, but it's also the vehicle of the body, right? It's you in your sort of physical material manifestation as you're moving through life, as you're moving through the world. It's a fantastic moment for you. Your ruling planet, especially if you're an ascendant Saggy, right? Your ruling planet is up there high in the sky in a house that it understands. It's still got room to grow in the ninth house, right? It's not the 10th house, which is the absolute peak. So it's a fantastic moment for you. And although I'm sure you probably enjoyed Jupiter moving through his sign of exaltation in Cancer, this feels to me infinitely better because it's fire energy that you are, and it's also you at a trine, mostly because it's immediately going to trine you, right? And obviously a fire trine versus like internal versus external. So that, Jupiter being in that in the sign of Cancer in your eighth house, yes, it will have been exalted, but it also would have been quite deep and very internal, right? Very inward looking, very psychic, very spiritual, very secretive, very occulted. Whereas here in the ninth house, it's coming out into the light quite literally. It's a house that represents an emergence, and it also represents you tapping into the spirit of adventure that you absolutely love, as well as seeking a meaning or to connect with an understanding about your way of moving through the world. Those of you that have placements in that early part of the sign, as I say, you're going to be getting that really nice, energy boost there. So, and then you need to look at this as well, like whatever you have in that space will also be in a sextile to Pluto. So that could be really, really nice for you as well. Now, one of the other things that I put here for you is it means that like this is a really potent moment. Okay. Now, and I will say like milk the early part of the transit, just, get it while it's good kind of thing. As the ruler of your fourth house, there's an energy of lightness of being that comes in. So not only are you being lifted in some way, shape or form, but your emotional self being out there in the ninth house, connecting to the cosmos, connecting to God, feeling lucky, feeling expansive. So there could be a real expansion of your feelings, of your emotional state that could be really coming in to support you in some way. And it means this gives you a chance to really lean into luck as well, because the ninth house in the chart is very lucky as well. Blessings, opportunities could find you that much more. That's all possible as well. If you're wanting to study more, which Sagittarius in the world doesn't, obviously that's like all of you, this is your moment, right? In the and then obviously because the ninth house is higher education, any form of travel. The ninth house also, when we're talking about education, this could be because Jupiter represents the gathering of knowledge, right? The cohesion, the knowledge and the wisdom that you have gained over a lifetime, the things that you have studied now could really start to make sense, and they might formulate you becoming a coach, a mentor, a guru of some sort, or an imparter of wisdom, right? In some way, shape, or form. Now, in the square to Chiron that it's going to set up almost, well, immediately and tightest, if you haven't seen any of the prior sections to this series, go and check out videos 1 through 4. I go through this a lot more. But in a square to Chiron in the sixth house, you're being asked to really consider what your days consist of, and whether like you need to really be doing what it is that you're doing now. And in the days ahead, you're going to be asked, how are you romancing the ordinary, where your daily life, and where in your daily life can you bring more healing? Where in your physical health and vitality do you need to bring more healing in general? A greater sense of responsibility for what needs to be maintained in your life is coming in. And so while you have all of these wonderful, big, sort of adventurous dreams, your health, your physical vitality, the things that, do become a little bit of a burden, are really kind of saying to you, okay, that's great, have those big lofty dreams, but how does this work out in the day to day, right? How do you actually and what is it that Chiron is bringing your attention to around responsibility, around your physical health and vitality, around where it is that, Jupiter's saying dream big, go for the things that really set your soul on fire and connect to the cosmos to make them happen. But that Chiron squaring it is kind of saying that's all well and good, but what about the day to day? What about your health, right? Are you in the right place to have this thing happen? One thing that really comes to mind with this, so I don't know if anyone's heard about this, there's a website called the EDT, right? So it's called the European Divide Trail. And basically you ride from one, I think it's like the tip of Portugal or Spain, one of those. And I know they're not sort of near, well, they are right next to each other, but you know what I mean? So it's basically, you can either ride from Norway right down through Europe into Spain, or from Spain right the way up through Europe to Norway, right? So depending on which way you go, it's completely up to you. And so the guy that created that, it's like a whole movement now of people that literally just, they buy a bike, I say buy a bike, it's not like they buy a random push bike that you could, that you use to ride around your local area. Although the guy that actually created the EDT, and this was my original point, in his story, he said, I didn't know if I was going to be able to do this. He said, I had no idea. He said, I was slightly overweight, slightly overwhelmed. I just knew that I wanted and had to do this thing. I had to go on this mega journey. And he said, to be honest with you, he said, if you, anyone that's thinking about doing this or planning to do it, he said, don't think about it forever. Don't plan about it forever. He said, because everything that I planned on the way to doing this thing, he said, none of it held up. There was always something new that came up to either stimulate or get in the way, or new problems that arise throughout all kinds of things. And he said you learn to deal with it in the moment. And that's what this really says to me, right? It's like he had this huge idea for this massive, he was like, yeah, I'm going to ride from one end of Europe right the way through to the other. Fantastic. And yet there were so many things. He was like, my tent didn't do this. The seat that I had, you said my buns were destroyed within 2 days, right? What else did he have? He said the tires that I bought for the bike were the completely wrong ones. I had to change them. And he just ran into all of these things on that day-to-day level that he really just hadn't thought about. And yet he finished it. And it's a whole movement now. And your boy is hoping to do it one day. Everyone that I speak to is like, Raf, I am not taking 3 months off to ride from one tip of Europe to the other. You can fuck off. I'm not interested. And I'm like, but it will be so amazing, please. Right. But I would listen, this is a little bit of me. But this square is kind of saying, yeah, you can do that. But what is the day to day of it? And more importantly, are you in the kind of shape or frame of mind or whatever the case might be that you need to be in order to make this thing happen? So there is going to be tension, but the truth is that through your levity and your ability to synthesize things, this square is going to be overcome, right? It's also about how you connect to the cosmos on that daily basis, how you build a habit and a routine of checking in with the universe so that you can build that connection with the cosmos that is going to help you figure out whatever challenges unfold on that day-to-day level on a consistent basis. Your own health and vitality are going to be called into question as you start to understand it more than just a material and a food that sustains the body kind of equation. As you start to really say, like, okay, yeah, actually, I can feel that I'm slightly dehydrated. And if I carry on going down that route, it's probably going to lead to this. Oh, actually, this food that I've eaten for years doesn't feel good anymore. It kind of feels to me like there's going to be a greater depth of intuition around your surroundings, your environment, but especially your physical body. In the sextile to Mars and Uranus that are in your seventh house, so you've got Mars and Uranus coming into a conjunction here in that seventh house of relationships. Does this mean that all Saggy risings and Saggy people are suddenly about to get divorced? No, it doesn't. It does, however, mean that surprising developments within relationships can absolutely offer you incredible but very weird experiences that allow you to see life and people from a different perspective, that in turn is going to see you deciding to make some drastic changes in your own life. So this is personal, professional, platonic, all forms of partnerships and connections. For a very, very select few of you, this could be a moment where you and your significant other say, like, look, I've just had this amazing call. I've got this incredible opportunity, but it involves me moving halfway around the world for the next 6 months, right? That's just one permutation of how this could show up. Remember, Jupiter is opportunity. It is a sextile from the seventh house. So some things to think about there. Another way, Pluto, right? In that opposition from Pluto, if anything could check Pluto, it's got to be Jupiter, right? Yours, well, and the sun, but yours is one of the planets or the only rulers to do so. And if you think about these as Zeus and Hades, right? Zeus being Jupiter, Hades being Pluto, they had a contentious relationship at best. And remember, you are Jupiter. So this matters. It matters a lot. Their relationship was contentious at best. It was destructive at worst. The opposition is asking you to be present both in your local area, but also show up in an international sense as well. And it wouldn't surprise me if some of you go on a massive content binge. This is the time to get out there and also in some regard to be prolific, but to remember that even you too, Saggies, have your limits. This is the time to share your knowledge and your message with the world, and it's the time for you to share all of your knowledge, right? All of which you will be gaining even more. I do feel that Pluto in the third, though, in the opposition is kind of saying wrap up your business in this area, right? Especially as the nodes are now about to enter your third and ninth houses, which very often, so when I say wrap up your business in this area, I don't mean in the third house. Pluto is going to be there for a good 18 plus years yet. I mean in your local neighborhood. That's what the third house represents. So this could be, and I say this because with eclipses in the third and the ninth, those usually trigger moves, changes of location, and very often bigger ones than we had expected. So all of this could also lead to things like book deals, podcast invites, expansion of followers and audiences. Well, maybe not necessarily followers and audiences, but the reach that you have to get them, right? Because the ninth house is the broadcasting, it is the publishing, the third house is the podcast, right? It's the content creating that the content that you create, all of that stuff. So you're kind of in line for this now, right? So the blessings, this could be higher perspectives and vantage points that really come to you that feel good. Insider information. Don't do yourself a Martha. We don't want to hear about you, Saggies, being locked up. Spiritual teachers and mentors could really favor you at this time. You could be becoming a coach, a mentor, or a guru, or a spiritual leader at this time. A teacher or a support system that really steps forward to hold you in some regard. This could be powerful allies, a greater knowledge, and also greater knowledge retention is possible here. A deeper sense of your spirituality, a lightness of your mind, being able to really see not just the big picture, but the broader view, right? Vision and prophecy powers could expand under this. Touches from the universe. So, in like where I'm from, and in my family on my dad's side, like a touch is like, when you used to touch knuckles, right? It's like to say, yeah, good, you got something, you're safe, like whatever. Um, like a touch would be like a little gift, right? Someone will give you a little bit of money, someone will be like, I'll give you a lift. Like a touch is like a little, like, yeah, like touch my knuckles, right? So touches from the universe are absolutely possible at this time. Great travel trips or courses are absolutely possible. Learning things that you love, loving that you are learning, right? So the lessons that are coming in here could see you becoming a bit of a zealot. No offense, Saggies, but you don't really need any help with that. You can be ones to proselytize from time to time. Arrogance of opinion, an excess of jargon, right? Like people like, can't believe you don't know that, noob, right? Like daydreaming, but in sort of the negative kind of sense, sucked into a cult. Starting a cult, my way or the highway, superiority complex, fame for all the wrong reasons. George Michael comes to mind, right? He got massive, I mean, even more popular, and then he made a song and a video about it, right? But obviously, he got arrested in the States, didn't he, for trying to solicit a policeman. Um, just if you're going to get fame or you're going to go viral for something, make sure it's not for having your pants around your ankles, right? So in terms of the how do you activate this? Well, to activate this Jupiter, you have to be yourself, Sagittarius. And I mean all of yourself. If you are in the broom closet, it's time to come out. What do I mean by that? So in the spiritual realm, we who are in the spiritual realm, if you are spiritual, witchy, pagan, woo-woo, voodoo, whatever you want to call it, and nobody knows, and you're kind of, you hide it from people, at your normie job and all the rest of it, you got to come out of that closet, baby, right? The broom closet that's a catch-all term, right? This is about meeting the world as you are and letting them understand who that person is. It's about travel, finding the joy in the difference and celebrating your own connection to the divine through real optimism and joy, right? The things that actually light you up. And when you have that feeling really amplified, you crank it up, right? You turn it up in some way, shape, or form. So I hope that helps. I hope it gives you some food for thought. For my Capricorns, way to go, Capricorn. No. Oh, that's why. um, Capricorn, here we go. So for you guys, this is going to be Sagittarius Jupiter moving into and through your eighth house. So this one is not a light and fluffy placement. But before I get to that, so Jupiter in your chart obviously rules your 12th house of Sagittarius, and it also rules your third house of Pisces, right? So the 12th house, past, privacy, the hidden self, hidden enemies, self-sabotaging tendencies, your connection to the other side, or the immaterial, or the intangible. Okay. Now, another way that you could see this, yeah, and then obviously ruling your third house. Well, your third house is siblings, cousins, and neighbors in terms of people. The third house is learning, gathering skills, enhancing your skills. It can also be content creation or consumption. It would also be your local environment, right? So your neighborhood. If the fourth house is your home, your family, and the people in it, then the third house would be everything around that, right? So, like everything that's beyond your garden is your third house. It's your neighborhood, your locality. It's the shop that you buy your milk from. It's the websites you visit every morning. It's all the daily round kind of stuff. Now, although it's not a light and fluffy place for Jupiter, I do have to say, I feel that as the ruler of your third and 12th house, an expansion of your mind and also your psyche are about to unfold. Remember that when you think of the 12th house, that's the past and the deep self. It's also, as well, it's about what we do or need to feel like we can escape. And in the 8th house, it's really about transformation. This is a whole year of very deep healing, very deep expansion of the soul. And the price, well, simple: presence, honesty, openness, right? Being really, really open, because the third house is communications, conversations, and speaking. And at the time that this Jupiter comes into your 8th house, you've got the North Node right there in the third. And so, in order for you to activate this, you've been with me long enough, you've heard me say, speak life into your dreams. Stop being afraid to cast goodness and lightness and happiness and joy over your own life. Stop being afraid to speak about things that you're passionate about. Stop holding back on your own blessings. The power of life and death is in the tongue. Speak life into your dreams. Speak life into your body now, right? Stop holding that stuff back. Now, since it's also the ruler of your third house, this is a great time because the 8th house is psychology. So the 8th house, I totally forgot to mention, what is the 8th house, Raf? The 8th house is your psyche. It's your psychological makeup, it's inheritances, taxes, loans, debts, what we are indebted to, who we are indebted to. It's the things that we inherit once our loved ones pass on, whatever that might be. The 8th house is also your the house of intimacy, sex, the taboo. The 5th house is romance, pleasure, and sex in like the fun way, whereas the 8th house is like pleasure and sex from like both from a kinky perspective, but also from a deep, intense intimacy, right? It's a very primal space in the chart, the 8th house. It's also about wounds, crises, challenges, traumas, all of those things. Now, Jupiter, the healing principle, the principle of cohesion, is going to take all of those things in your life, all the separate pieces that make you up, and it's going to bring them into a much more streamlined, integrated whole so that you can move forward in a way that really sees you being able to amplify the best of who you are. So this is a great time. This next 12 months is a fantastic time for therapy. The 8th house is the psychological house, the house of therapy and the like. It's also the third house, obviously, that Jupiter rules, is the mind, communication, speaking. The 12th house is the soul and the psyche, means spiritual healing can absolutely come in. And so this could be a really beautiful time if you let it. But Jupiter demands integrity. It demands honesty, openness, and cohesion, which means that in this 8th house, secrets will not do, right? In the square to Chiron, that's now in your 5th house of children, the realization where you have let fun and pleasure and romance just die on the vine, right? Where you have been just, what have you been doing, right? If you have children, they could become a point of vulnerability at this point. That's, there's no getting around that. I think this transit maybe mends a relationship between you and your children if you have them. If you've had challenges with your children, this could be a good time where you start to really make it up. Maybe you go to therapy with your children, right? And it's not going to be easy because it starts with a square. One thing I have noticed about the Cappies is that you guys do like to win, but not necessarily from like the usual sort of Aries kind of I know, shocking, right? Cappies like to win, but not like in an Aries kind of way. I think this could change that because someone like a boss could really demand from you more than you either think that you have to give, or it makes you sort of say, okay, you know what? I'm going to have to fight for myself here. In the sextile to Uranus conjunct Mars in your sixth house of your day-to-day habits, patterns, and routines. I mean, look, your routines and your daily, habits, patterns, and routines have just been absolutely roughshod destroyed, right? They've been severely disrupted, whether you wanted them to or not. And that's just the way of it for the next 7 years. The developments that's going on here is it's like you're being asked to learn how to be comfortable with an unstable routine. You're being asked to really think about how surprise developments that come up and through work, which is very possible, new and greater responsibilities that you didn't expect to have, but you have to meet anyway. I like this for tending towards things that unexpectedly, like, really bring rewards, especially because Jupiter is going to be opposing Pluto in your second house. So there's definitely some kind of expansion of the resources here that could come through a crisis. The other way that we see this, remember I said the eighth house is wounds, crises, traumas. The eighth house is also, I touch wood and I hope I'm wrong, it's a house of death. And, this could be inheritance. It's quite possible that this could be a way that wealth or, resources find you in some way. I hope that's not the case, but it is something to think about. In the opposition, we get really to the meat of the matter, right? When it comes to your money and your finances, this can expand really well. But as I said, there's some ways that that could show up. It could also be a greater focus on things like, investments, pensions, things that you qualify for, benefits through work, etc. That's all very possible as well. It can see you expand your own wealth and resources, and it could do so through you being more competitive, or at least understanding where not being so competitive has actually held you back, raising your self-worth and your self-esteem, going beyond that, right? So it could see you bring up, it could also potentially bring up power struggles around money, around finances, around resources, and it could make you really uncomfortable enough to sort of say, you know what, I'm going to lean into my ambition here, right? It's also possible that you could, through maybe something reaching a bit of a head, you and a sibling could mend a relationship in some way. So the blessings of this transit for you are going to be inheritances, tax rebates, increased healing of wounds around sex and intimacy if you've had them. Your mediumship and psychic skills are enhanced at this time for sure. Psychic power is going to increase your ability. Remember, Jupiter is a planet of knowledge, and it draws, it magnetizes. The eighth house is magnetic by its very nature. It's very scorpionic in that regard. Remember as well that eighth house is the occult practices and skills. So tarot, your astrology, your numerology, all of that kind of stuff over this next year could really call to you, where you're like, you know what, I want to go deeper on this. I want to learn about this, but at that very deep level. Debts could be repaid, debts could be completed, debts could be paid off. Remember, Jupiter also represents helpful people or nobility. So someone could come in and say, look, that thing that you owe, I'm going to wipe the debt. Or you know what, that thing that you owe, I'm going to pay it for you. Or maybe somebody just does it silently, right? That's also very possible. I've seen that twice actually, in someone's chart when they had Jupiter transit through their eighth house. They were like, yeah, I had this massive 5K debt and somebody paid it. They never actually found out who. So, very possible. Energy work delivers powerfully over the next 12 months. Invest in something like Reiki, pranic energy healing, shaman work. I'm just trying to think what else there is. Any form of energy work, and I mean actual energy work, could be very, very beneficial for you over this next year and could really help trigger some of those deeper healings. The lessons for this transit: tax issues, debts could increase, debts could surface, death in the family, that's possible, expansion of fears and phobias. The eighth house is a fear house. Around fears around and phobias around money could increase, problems with intimacy could become worse. STIs and STDs, sexually transmitted infections and or diseases. That's something to watch out for with Jupiter moving through the eighth house as well. So some considerations there, right? And the reason I highlight the blessings and the lessons is because no transit is all good and no transit is all bad. That's all there is to it, right? It's never like, oh yes, this is going to be amazing, and just that. How to activate? How do you activate this Jupiter? Find the joy in going deep. Be prepared to gather and gain a lot of very deep secrets and knowledge that are coming to light. This could be secrets that are revealed to you so that you can move forward in some way. For some of you, this could be very old, this could be answers to very old questions that you've always had that have burned inside of you could come up now. This is a time where you begin to understand the very nature of and fabric of life and death itself. Very possible. Right? This is a time when seeking out the secrets and the secret keepers of life will yield incredible results. And I would also say, allow yourself to do the deep inner work. Yes, tap into optimism, but understand that the energy of the good that comes from healing, that comes from overcoming your inner hang-ups, challenges, and issues, the deep honesty with yourself and the most intimate connections that you have. If there are people in your life that you truly value, the deeper the level of honesty that you have with them, the greater the capacity you will have for expansion and growth, and also potentially really great resources. All right, so this is happening in your seventh house of partnerships, relationships, connections of a one-to-one nature. Anyone that you are in a, excuse me, partnership, connection, or collaboration with, whether this is personal, professional, or platonic, is a seventh house connection. The seventh house is the connection, the interaction that you have with your doctor. It's the interaction that you have with your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other. It's the partnership that you have with your competitors, right? The seventh house is your open enemies, which means your competitors, people that are in direct competition with you. And so Jupiter being in your seventh house can represent good things coming to you from and through your partners, from and through the world. Now, usually, the seventh house is what we give to the world or what we put out into it, right? Because it represents the other. But Jupiter being a protective element, Jupiter being an element of lightness and joy and abundance and all of those good things, could be helpful people are coming to you. If you're single, I doubt you will be after this 12 months ahead, which is always very nice and very welcome. If you're partnered, married, or in a long-term commitment, great things could come in through the partner, including gifts and or blessings of some sort. Now, in your chart, Jupiter rules the second house of your money, your finances, and your resources. Jupiter also rules your diet, as in food intake, etc. Anything that goes in your mush, right? And the second house is also, your self-worth, value, and esteem, but it's also your possessions. Now, the 11th house, where you've got Sagittarius, so that's Pisces, because Jupiter rules Pisces. In the 11th house, we find passive income. We find noble people, helpful people that are wanting to help you. We find your higher goals, visions, aspirations, and dreams for the future. This is also the space of the gains, the monetary gains that you get from your career or your business house. And so this can represent passive income or income streams that you don't necessarily have to sort of constantly keep an eye on, but they pay you anyway. That being said, it is the results of the career. So very often that can be, what comes out of it. Now, are you ready to no longer be single? Right? It's the time for those of you that are, And this could be a great moment for you to lean into that now. It's a great time for you to date. Remember, it's a year-long transit. So if you lean into that and you don't get like five friggin' marriage proposals after a week of being on a dating website or whatever, you're obviously not giving it the time that it's going to need. It's a great time for you to date, right? Don't rush it. Don't take all the eggplants that you see, and don't take the first one that you see either. If you catch my drift, if you're partnered, this could bring a great deal of cohesion to and relate and healing to the relationship that you're in. You've got a chance now to really mend things, or even to just enhance them, if things are all good in your relationship world. Since Jupiter for you is ruling that second house of your money, your finances, and your resources, it's a great time for your finances and making more money in general, right? But it will be through your partnerships, through your connections, through your collaborations. This is the epitome of, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know, right? Through the one-to-one work that you do, through the connections that you have or build. Yes, there'll be a group element to it because you've got the 11th house. So it's a great time for things like memberships. It's a great time for things like group associations, stuff like that, because that's likely to be where you meet those one-to-one connections as well. Could be that friendships and new networks or collaborators come in over the next 12 months who really favor you. Remember, the 11th house is benefactors, people that really want to help and support you in some way. So they could help you expand your presence, expand your earning potential. There's definitely money in this transit for you, but it's not off your own back. It's going to be about who you connect with, and the quality of those connections, right? In the square to Chiron, who's now in your fourth house of home, property, real estate, your family, familial ties is all for fourth house stuff. It's possible that there's some partners that don't mesh with the family, or even that your home and your living situation clash with some of the opportunities that are coming up. So, one way that I see this as well, it could be that maybe you meet someone and connect with someone and they're like, we really want you to come and do this. We've got this for you. There's this great opportunity. And you're like, oh, well, I live in such and such a place. And they're like, oh, like, why do you live there? You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, well, that's because that's my home. Like, what the fuck? This is about understanding and healing your childhood as well, right? Childhood wounds that are stopping you, and stopping them from spilling over and out into your relationships. Remember, the fourth house is your deep emotional makeup. It's also the environment in which you grew up in. And if that and any of the stuff from your childhood, from your ancestry or your past, like, is getting in the way, or is stopping you from feeling at your best, this is going to be highlighted, and that Jupiter's going to amplify it. And it could be that a partner, a connection, a friend, somebody that you trust or you look up to could really say to you, listen, this is stopping you from moving forward. I could see this being the addressing of your feelings and a softening of how you feel about sharing them. So if you do the work here, Aquarius, and I mean really do the work, some incredible healing of your emotions and the baggage from the past could absolutely be let go here. As the ruler of your 11th house and helpful people, benefactors, or anyone that you, as I say, sort of like someone who understands your vision, will actually be a huge help. And this could be one thing that comes out of this as well, that you meet maybe just one person who says, you know what, I see the vision and I can help you get there. Maybe even in helping you build like a passive income stream that involves partnerships or contracts. In the sextile to Mars and Uranus in your fifth house, there's definitely a competitive streak that is woken back up in you, but there's also opportunities to compete at something in ways, or maybe even at levels that you really didn't expect, possibly online or in unexpected places, right? Now, the fifth house is your hobbies. It's the things that you like to do. It's in the sign of Gemini. Gemini does everything with two hands, right? And so I would say this is absolutely, especially because it's aspecting that Jupiter in the seventh, this is not a time to go it alone, right? This is the time for you to really lean into that. The trine to Neptune means that creativity and ingenuity are going to be very high at this time. Possible that some of your best work happens over the next 12 months, maybe gaining real recognition, providing that you have the right partner or connections to have that happen. In the opposition to Pluto that's happening in your first house, because Pluto is in your sign now, right? The power in the Pluto in the first house is kind of like the power is with you. This is about understanding power, the nature of power, the power in the world that you have, and that which you give away, right? And in understanding the two, you're not just going to see how much personal power you can muster. You're also going to be finding out that now there might be powerful and maybe even great and epic love stories that come in and help you understand more about relationships than you ever have. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that a lot of Aquarius people over the course of this next year have at least one great story to tell, great love story. And it might not be like, oh, take me tenderly in your arms, Jason Momoa. No, wait, that's what I'm doing. It might not be anything like that, but it might be a relationship that has so much depth and intensity and power to it that it really leaves you changed, right? So I can give you an example here, and this is just an example. It's not to say this is going to happen to everybody. Let's say you meet somebody, right? And they are, and I'm telling this because I can't, well, I won't give out any specifics, right? But you meet someone, you fall head over heels in love with this person. You're besotted by each other. It's deep, it's passionate, it's sexual, it's all of the things. And that person dies after the 3 or 6 months that you've known them, right? Yes, the devastation that's going to occur, but imagine how changed you would be from that relationship. Yes, you'd be devastated, but at the same time, think about how it would change you. It could even be that there's a relationship that you're in that you've been in for years, right? That changes in some way and it sees you saying, wow, you know what? I actually did have an epic relationship that shifted my entire viewpoint on relationships in some way. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be deep. I think it's going to be necessary, and it could also help you uncover some of the most lucrative directions within relationships and contracts, as well as how to join your enemies and your competitors rather than trying to beat them, right? Like, very interesting one for that. Now, in the T square, because obviously Chiron is setting up, so Jupiter and Pluto are opposing each other from opposite ends, right? One of those ends is you, that's where Pluto is. One of those ends is Jupiter, where Leo is, and they're doing this. But here in Taurus, at the foundation of your chart, the very depths of your chart, in your soul, in your ancestry, in your family, your home, your living situation, Chiron becomes the way out of the tension through radical honesty about your feelings, mending and healing any familial ties or wounds that really need to be healed, saying goodbye to ancestral trauma, challenges, etc., all the things, and also connecting to your ancestors so that you can understand how to heal the lineage that came before you, including yourself. And that's what happens when we do this. When we do our work to heal ourselves, we heal our entire lineage that came before us. I genuinely believe that. I've believed that for a very long time, and no one will ever make me change my mind on it. Chiron being the way through says that understanding your personal power comes from the knowing of who you are, and knowing who you are is what makes you clear and sure in the handling of your personal power. All right, big stuff for you guys, I do think. Now, the blessings of this: support from others, helpful people, good connections, finding a partner if single, enhanced relationship ease, relationship cohesion, right? Good connections on a one-to-one level, excellent work done in that one-to-one space. Amazing contracts could come out of this, mutually beneficial connections and resources, building wealth, expansion of awareness, building wealth through the connections or the people that are known to you. The lessons here, and there will be, right? Expansion of relationship issues if you've got them, bold gestures in relationships or partnerships that go nowhere, finding the joy and the bold declarations at the wrong time. You and your partner just have this whole thing, or some craziness happens in the family, and then you turn around and your partner's on one knee, and you're like, really? Now you're going to propose to me at this moment? Really not appropriate. A partner that no one likes. Quite possible, right? Maybe you meet somebody that your family just can't get on board with. A relationship built on fantasy and dreams. Neptune trining Jupiter, you could really see the fantasy of it all. And it's like, but I see their potential. Uh-huh. Good luck with that. Sure, Jan. Being swindled by somebody that you believed. Please watch out for this one. I've told you time and time again, if you are out here in 2026 being catfished, I got no sympathy for you. Everybody at this point is glued to their phone, right? Glued. So if you can't FaceTime somebody that's supposedly telling you that they love you, that you guys are going to ride off into the sunset together, if you haven't FaceTimed that person within this first 7 days of meeting them online, you got a problem. All right. Codependency is another lesson. Watch out for that. How do you activate this? Well, you activate this Jupiter by bonding with people who make you feel good, right? I'm not talking about people that say yes to your every whim. I'm talking about people that hear you, that see you, finding the joy and the pleasure and the fun and the optimism and romance even in being connected to someone, in connections that allow you to truly express yourself, to really expand, being in connection, partnership, collaboration with people that make you go, oh yeah, this feels good, right? I feel like they put their point across, I put my point across, and we collaborate, and it's amazing. Everybody knows that. When you work on I love collaborations anyway, so I'm really happy to hear that this is happening for my sun sign. Because I do. When people bring things, like, I just bounce off that. I get that energy. I'm a manifesting generator in human design. So I need people, really, right? Like, they say something and it sparks something in my brain. And then when they say, like, yeah, what do you think? That's where my stuff activates. That's how it happens. So I'm very excited about this. It's a time to make room for connections of friendships that are of an intimate and mature nature. What do I mean intimate, right? So it doesn't always have to be of a sexual nature. I've said this before. Some of my actual soulmates in life are not people that I have any intimate connection like that with. But when I say an intimacy of friendship, this is about deep friendships. It's about real friendships, real connections, people that are there for you, that you are there for, where you show up for each other. I'm not talking about fair weather friends. I'm not talking about people that are very active in your life when something's going on for them, but non-existent when everything's good for them. I'm not talking about any of that. And in fact, those kinds of relationships are actually about to be phased out in very interesting fashion. That Jupiter Pluto opposition, it doesn't mess about. Expecting good results from buddying up, right? And not going it alone. These are all things that you can do to activate that Jupiter. Last, but by no means ever least, Pisces, Jupiter, your ancient ruler. So Neptune is your modern ruler. Where are you, Neptune? Here in your second house. Pisces, your original ruler was Jupiter, as many of you know. Now, for you, this is happening in your sixth house, right? This to me, I think you're about to gain some really incredible creative insights through your work that see you having some very big dreams and potentially developments around your career. It's one way to start. Why? Jupiter rules your first house, where the North Node is just getting ready to leave. Jupiter rules your 10th house of your career, your social status, your legacy out in the world. And that first house is you, your identity. And being in the sixth house which is a workhouse. It's your work, your daily work. It's the daily grind. It's the gym that you go to. It's the, folding the sheets, doing the laundry. The sixth house is your physical health and vitality, how you look after that, how you pay attention to it. Jupiter moving through the first and the sixth can absolutely bring weight gain. So do watch out for that. Given that it's doing this thing with Venus, I actually think this will work in a different way. Because Venus was first into this sign and Jupiter follows her, what I have observed in people's charts, especially in transit, is that when this takes place, that area in the chart, that space in their lives tends to really go through a massive sort of glow up of some kind. So this could be where you start getting really serious about working out, about eating right, all of those good things, especially because it's Jupiter trine Neptune. That being said, Jupiter does like sweet things, your chocolates, your luxury goods, your salted caramel, yummy. Right, all of those kinds of things. Now, this is your ancient ruler and the ruler of your 10th of career. It's transiting your sixth, and it's going to see a lot of life's daily burdens and issues lighten up, unless it's hitting something difficult in your chart, or, in which case it could exacerbate them. That's also possible. However, unless it's hitting something specific, I do think that you'll get the benefits of this. The fact that it's going to enhance your creativity. Leo is a very creative sign. You have this in your work sphere, so you might come up with some really incredible ideas, right? This could also see the creativity and see you gaining an idea of what is really required of you, that first house, in order to really enhance the career, the 10th house, right? So it's like, I think this could be a time where it's like you're really thinking about what you desire. The 10th house is also about authority figures. And if you've had issues with any of them, a boss, a superior, a supervisor, all of that stuff, this could see you finding ways to mend those ties or bonds. Your habits, your patterns, and your routines are about to get a real nice smoothing over. Not to punish or anything like that, but it's like you might start to see results now of hard work or efforts that you've been putting in. And now in the square to Chiron, which for you is in your third house, there's something in here about speaking up at work. You're being asked to heal your ability to use your voice and speak up, to address any insecurities that you've had around commanding your space, any issues that you've had with either speaking up, saying it how it is, or sharing what you think, especially what you think nobody really wants to hear. Right? This is the deep creative streak within you. But if no one knows about your deep creative ideas, etc., how are they ever going to see it? So it's possible that you could miss opportunities here to get ahead and grow, because as the saying goes, closed mouths don't get fed, right? You got to ask for what you want. You got to be brave and bold enough to stand up and be counted. This is you that we're talking about in this, through this guise of Leo, right? So you are Jupiter and you're expressing through Leo. You've got to be bold, right? Desiree, you gotta be bold, you gotta be bad, you gotta be wiser. I used to love that tune. Anyway, I digress. Listen to that song. That is your homework from this video, right? Go and listen to Desiree's You Gotta Be. It's such a good song and it really encapsulates this really nicely. You gotta be bold. You gotta be a bit larger than life. You've got to lean fully into your creative expression in your work, in your daily life. This is the time for you to socialize in those mundane places. Go to the gym, hang out at the coffee shop, join the local cleanup efforts as well. Do things like that. Go and do some form of volunteering as well. That could really help you. All of these kinds of things might connect you with people that really want to spend time with you, but also people that can benefit you in some way. Now, in a sextile to Mars and Uranus in the fourth house, right? So you can see here Mars and Uranus in the fourth, in a sextile to that Jupiter. There's an opportunity here, right? Sextiles are opportunity and this could be surprise developments around your home or your living situation that are very possible at this time. In the family, surprise developments around health of loved ones could come to the fore. On a more personal note, this could see a dramatic shift in your living situation, which I think for some of you could bring about a change of location. So maybe you find a really incredible job, maybe something comes up, something about your work changes. Maybe your company say, look, we're closing down this branch, but we're going to transfer you to here. And you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to commute from where I am, so I'm going to have to move, right? This is very possible for a lot of you. And I actually think for those of you that work from home, with homes, with technology from home or around this could be phenomenal for you, especially if you're using that natural creative flair that you have. In opposition to Pluto, who's in your 12th house, is going to be there for a good while yet. It's a huge amplification and it will be a deep dive into your own psyche, along with whatever fears, self-sabotaging tendencies, and the likes that you've been masking. There's nothing really here that can hide because Jupiter demands integrity and Pluto demands depth and the truth. So this could be, anything that it could amplify escapist tendencies and behaviors, Pisces. So do be careful. It could also bring an incredible depth to your work, to your sex life, to your dreams, to your sense of self, even. That's very possible. It can help you put the past in its rightful place so that it doesn't have, so that it can no longer rule you, so that it can no longer sort of press your emotional internal buttons. With Chiron playing the anchor to this in that third house, the message is clear. It's time for you to start speaking up and it's time for you to be heard. And it's time for you to get really honest and serious about your own dreams, your own advancement, because no one's going to give it to you. You have to take it. And in order to do that, you got to speak up. Now, that being said, the third house is content. So this could be an amazing time for you to heal your voice by using it, by really being honest about what you're creating, what you're learning, and how to share it, and more importantly, why. Physically, right? I find this one for more of you could, as I say, that whole weight gain thing is possible here. Now, the blessings of this transit, ease of work burdens, blessings from co-workers or bosses, being in the right place at the right time, expansion of prominence in work, healing of the body, finding great solutions for better or deeper healing or rest, release of burdens. I've already said that, but it's worth saying again, the easing of debts, romancing the ordinary, darling. If Jupiter is spiritual energy, it's wisdom, knowledge, prophecy. It's the higher octaves and perspectives. And in that sixth house, this could be about how you bring meaning to your day-to-day life through some kind of spiritual observation or practice. Blessings come through the hard work, through the grind, right? That's what the sixth house represents. Cohesion around your habits, patterns, and routines. The lessons, potentially gaining weight, an expansion of health issues, overindulgence in sweet things, an expansion of debts. Remember, the sixth houses like rent, mortgages, etc. I mean, how could that be a positive as well? Well, if you suddenly find yourself having to deal with the fact that you've now got to pay a mortgage, it means that you own a property. Hey, need to maintain things more often, a need to maintain things, a need to replace things that have needed maintaining for too long, all possible permutations as well. An amplification of sickness if you get sick, or some form of another way that you could see this as well. I think a lot of you might change something about your diet, and it could be that something that comes up around your physical health and vitality due to some form of drug and or supplement, etc., that you're taking. And I say that because there's a trine from Neptune in your second house of, yes, money, resources, and things, but the second house is your diet. And in a trine to that Jupiter in the sixth, yes, it's a trine, but maybe there's some new drug or etc. that you're taking, and that could be a factor. Now, how do you access this, right? How do you activate this Jupiter? Romance the ordinary. right? Really, you've got to find a way to bring more spirituality and harmony and creativity into your days on a day-to-day level. You got to find the good and the great in all that you do, even if it's, and especially the smallest, most meanable tasks, right? This is a time for you to get happy, to get optimistic about your day-to-day experience. Go exploring all of the places that you frequent, right? So, as an example, when you go to your local library, how often do you really explore the library? Right? Like, do you go and sit in all of the places and look at all of the books and check out all the nooks and crannies? This is a time to do that, right? Especially in your local environment and area. Maybe you go to the gym at some really crazy hours, right? Maybe you're the first person in the supermarket at dawn. Maybe you visit the local park to watch the sunset. Explore your body through movement, flow, and such things, like especially animal flow. I talked about this a lot in other videos, but things like breath work, mantra work could be incredible for you guys, especially with that Chiron in the third, right? Ways to heal through the voice, ways to heal through the body as well. Now, if you would like to book a reading, you can hit one of these QR codes. With that said, thus concludes the Jupiter moving through the sign of Leo. That is the whole series now complete. All five of the videos. You'll have to let me know in the comments what you think. It's very hot here in the UK, so I apologize for all the snuffling and wiping my nose and my forehead. But I really hope that you have enjoyed this series as much as I have creating it. Let me know in the comments how it shapes up. Take care, and I'll see you soon.